Hello, Storygoers, and welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Cartridge, the video game storytelling podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Eric.
And I'm the co-host, Ryan.
And Ryan, if this is going well, which I don't know if it is or not,
we'll see.
Then you might be seeing our faces. If not, then something went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, we need to update our nose picking policy. We cannot be just picking noses as we're doing this anymore. That was a staple for us for a while. I'm a firm believer that probably everybody picks their nose in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, probably.
Even celebrities, I bet. I feel like I would respect celebrities more if they just did it.
just in front of people.
Yeah.
Just normalize it.
Yeah. You're human too, right?
Yeah.
Like you likely pick your nose. Jenna Ortega picks her nose.
For
I don't know why I picked her. It just first in my mind. Cillian Murphy. you know Cillian Murphy, right? Everyone knows that guy.
Yeah, everyone knows that
actor.
guy.
Scarecrow and Batman. That's probably not the first role he wants me to think of when I think of his name.
No, he probably wants you to think of his recent one where he won a bunch of awards.
No.
The nuclear bomb one.
The bomb, yeah. I was going to say Obsidian. Oppenheimer?
Oppenheimer, yes.
Oppenheimer, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Ryan, how are you?
Yes.
And what have you been playing?
I am doing pretty good. It's a beautiful day here. It rained all day yesterday, as has been the pattern, which is okay. Just some water. But overall, I'm doing pretty good. The school year's continuing to wind down. Next week is the last full week. And then things will, chill out a bit on the work front. And I'm in a weird, gaming place right now because I'm kind of I'm not fully in between, but I'm trying to think about what I want to do next. Because, as we're recording this episode, I finished Clair Obscure Expedition 33 just this past week. I still have a ton of side stuff to do because once I got to a certain point, I was like, well, I'm just going to I know that I can come back to do all this more of this stuff after. And I probably should do this stuff before, but I just I really want to see where this goes and see it through to the end. And I know there's some important story stuff that I sense, other stuff you find, other people you get to meet and see, and interactions you have that I need to go back and have. But I'm finished, and we're excited to talk more about it. So that, and this has been kind of in the background. I don't want to talk about it until this week because I don't want to mess up the time continuum. But the GeForce Now is now native to the Steam Deck, and so it means I can play all my Game Pass games on the Steam Deck, which is very exciting. Because Indiana Jones, I played a little bit of Indiana Jones, the first act, the whole, the first section, which if you played Indiana Jones, the first section is you're just hanging out in the Pope house. You're hanging out where the Pope lives in the what's it called? The Vatican. You're hanging out in the Vatican for
that one place.
That one place. And it's this huge open world area that you can just explore and solve puzzles and hang out and go on little quests. And it's very different than I expected, but it's very fun. Oh. But yeah, it's an open world area, and there's a map, and there's secrets dotted around the map, and you go and you solve them. And you find clues, and that's very fun. It's been a fun time. And I held off on going any further until I finished Clair Obscure. And now I need to go back and wrap that up and then figure out if I want to dive more into Indiana Jones or what's next. Mm-hmm. Because I also have the Oblivion remake that I purchased when it came out and was excited and haven't touched it since. So we'll see.
Yeah, I feel that.
But Eric, how are you? What have you been playing?
I'm good. I'm nervous about this recording. I'm hoping my computer will keep up. But we'll see. But yeah, no, I'm good. And like you said, it was raining all day yesterday, which is a little bit of a downer, but it seems nicer out today. Yeah, so that's cool. I feel like the older I get, the more weather affects me, and I hate it. I hate that. You know what I mean? And it's and nothing achy bones or anything like that, but just I don't know, it's the mental health takes a hit. I don't know why. Even though I like rain, whatever. I, like you, Ryan, have also been playing Clair Obscure, though I have already beaten it a week ago or so, maybe 2 weeks ago. I was doing the things that you were about to do. I won't spoil anything. I won't go into it too far. And there are some pretty interesting narrative beats that I don't think we should cover today. I think they should be probably reserved for people who want to play the game further and find those out. There are some significant things that I didn't even think about during the story. I was like, oh, that's right. I didn't think about that person and how this would have happened. I am on the secret final boss. Not final boss, it's nothing narratively. I'm on the secret boss of the game. Have you seen anything about this, Ryan?
I possibly. I think
Oh.
I know a couple of things that happen when I was like trying to like process the story. Oftentimes I process it as I go and like learn more about it to make sure I fully understand everything that happened. And in that processing and decompressing, I saw some bits and bobs about some characters. So like, who is this character? Why are we talking about them? And then like I learned a little bit more. I was like, oh, this is actually like really interesting. So I have a guess at who that boss might be, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it is infuriating. It is infuriating. I never respected any character, or not respected, but respect a character. Like reset their attribute points. I never felt like the need I had to do that. I took probably like 45 minutes this morning to respect all my characters in the hopes that I had a better chance of beating this character. And it's just, this character has 3 phases and I can't get past the second one. It is unbelievable how I pray for the sweet embrace of death at some point, because I'm just like, just get this over with. I have no chance anymore. There's a thing that this boss does at certain moments to your characters that just makes it like, no, please don't do that. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that we can't take that back now. It's just so frustrating. So, but once I beat that boss, I think I'm done for now. I think I'll go back. My thoughts are, I was going to play Clair Obscure again when I was finished it the first time and do the new game plus, but I think I actually might save it for towards like Game Awards season. I think I'd like to replay this and like kind of have it fresh in my mind for when Game Awards comes out. I think that'd be a good time. I think there'll be less games then as well, because it seems like all games are going to be coming out in September for some reason. I don't know why. But I think I just bought I forget what it's called off the top of my head. It is, and I can't just like look it up on my phone as we're talking because I can't cut that out. We're doing the visual thing now, and I gotta get used to that. It is I'm trying to kill time so I can look it up. It is the Souls-like game where you're this hermit crab and it's you were trying
something shell.
It's something like that.
Another crab treasure.
Is that? Yeah. Wow. Good job, Ryan. Yeah. Whoa, you pulled that out of nowhere. Like a hermit crab from a shell. You came out and you just. Wow, that was very impressive. My client showed me some footage that they had from their playthrough, and I was like, wow, this is like incredibly deep and actually a very impactful story in such a cute package. So I'm very excited about that, and it's clear that these people love Souls-like games.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
But then, of course, I say all that, and I just remember, too, that, like, Liza P. Overture Shadow dropped 2 days ago, and I still have yet to play it, and I really want to play that. So, there's so much to play. There's so little time. And we'll see. Xbox's showcases today.
Yes. And the PC showcase, but,
the PC,
who knows? Who knows what that'll look like? Yeah.
I know. I don't know what to really expect from these showcases as much. I watched the Future Gaming Showcase, and I was kind of whelmed. You know what I mean? They showed a couple things, but nothing I was like, oh, I need to play that. And so I don't know. And then we'll talk more about our thoughts on all the showcases at a different point. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. But either way, regardless, hopefully Xbox has some cool stuff. There's nothing shown at Summer Game Fest for specifically first-party Xbox, so it makes me kind of hopeful that they have some cool stuff to show. Because I'm not the biggest Xbox person right now, but I would more than willing to see what they have available. You never know. Hopefully not more Halo or I don't know. I keep hearing the rumors that there could be a Halo remake for PlayStation and Switch too, and all those things. I don't know if that would ever be possible. I think Xbox is going to try to get as many revenue streams out to as many places as possible, and they're not going to have any rhyme or reason to be upset about, because they'll be making hand over fist money. Especially if it's accessible. So you know what I mean? Like it's gonna be But anyway, Storygoers, we hope that you're doing well. Hope that you're happy, healthy, all the good things. As always, you can send us your thoughts, feelings, and perspectives to talesfromthecartridge@gmail.com. All the E's are threes. You could also... What else? Sorry, I'm like so present. I can see myself right now, and it's being recorded.
Yeah, right, because it's like on the screen.
It's like here, and then also here, and so I'm like seeing like don't turn your head. You look better straight on than you do. Just, But I do want to read some comments from our latest polls and such as that we had on our DLC Summer Showcase predictions, which Whew, Ryan, our predictions. We really swing for the fences. We miss a lot of balls.
Yeah.
A longtime listener, Daisy Rose, wrote in with a comment saying like they're hopeful for Silk Song being shown at Game Fest with 2 fingers crossed, and I responded back with like our fingers are so crossed for that, even though did not work out the way we wanted to. You never know. Maybe Xbox has something. I doubt it.
Yeah,
but like,
I think it's gonna be. I think Switch is gonna scoop that up. I think Nintendo wants to show Silk Song. Yeah, I think Nintendo wants that.
Do you think Nintendo's waiting for all this to die down before they do their thing? Nintendo feels so sleazy sometimes. You know what I mean? Like
the Sony did a direct the day the Switch was coming out or the day before. So I mean, they're all just a bunch of hooligans trying to steal each other's thunder. Yeah,
that's fair. They have better ways. Our predictions. I think our predictions would have really been a great way for them to get it under Nintendo's skin a little bit. No, they're kind of cowards. So whatever.
Yeah.
Except for you, Gabe. From Valve. You're the best of us.
The hero.
Another longtime listener, Super Sheepy, wrote in for our DLC episode as well and said they're super excited to listen to this first episode of the summer, which they're pretty sure it's the first episode of the summer, and I think it is technically.
Yeah.
And that we're so awesome they can't wait, which is super kind. Super Sheepy, you're incredibly kind to us. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And they also mentioned that they're joining our Patreon, which is, again, super, super kind. There's no pressure to join the Patreon by any means. It is very, very kind for people who do. And we'll get to that more in a second. And last but not least, I wanted to shout out this last comment from our bedtime story, our Yoshi story bedtime story from Ann John. They said, "Hey, sorry, the music is too loud," with a smiley face. And you are 100% correct. I think when we were first starting to do bedtime stories, I had no idea what I was doing with the music and stuff like that. So looking back now, I'm like, oh, that is very loud. So I'm going to re-record that. It'll be going out soon, if not already out. And so hopefully it'll sound better. But yeah. Going back to Patreon, though, we want to start shouting out our patrons, the people who are supporting us, whether it's monetarily or just you're signed up for free, either or. Anyone that's on the list, we want to shout out. So I believe this newest person, if the time correlates right, is Super Sheepy, who wrote in before. Thank you, Super Sheepy, so much for joining the Patreon. That's very, very kind of you. We also have no particular order. Actually, I think it's in no particular order, I think. We also have, going down the list, Cedric, Joanne, Lindsay, Miles, and Michael. Thank you guys for supporting us. It's very, very kind of you. It is extremely
much
kind.
appreciated.
Yeah, we're trying to do more with that. We're just trying our best. We're literally just recording our faces now, so like this is year 5, so we're really catching up. Really trying to catch up.
Going for the marathon, not the sprint. Absolutely. By 40, we'll have it locked down.
Oh man, we're gonna
by the time we're 40, we're gonna have it locked down.
And we'll like be on the A game and be like, guys, we just don't want to do it anymore. We're done. We're out.
Yeah.
If you feel like rating us on Apple and Spotify, super awesome. If you did, if you want to give us 5 stars, that's sweet. And if not, don't even bother. It's not any of your time. It's not worth your time. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
And all that good stuff. But today we're doing our new format for Tales. This is the new format that is kind of taking place of our old format where we would reenact stories and do the voices. As much as we love doing those, there's just not enough time in the day, and it's really taking away from doing more in Tales that we want to do. So with this new format, with these story analyses, we're going to try to keep as much of what we used to do intact, but more so looking at the narrative story of what is this game, going through the plot points, picking out the things we liked or maybe don't like that add to or don't add to the story, and then really pointing at the end towards what were the themes, what did we take away, what did we love, what did we not, and how did this really impact us. But yeah, does that sound fair, Ryan?
Yeah, that sounds fair. And that sounds absolutely fair. And I will say, like, already going into this, like, this feels so much smoother than the previous ones. And like, I've already created, and I know that you have as well, like multiple other variations of other game stories. And it took me this morning, like an hour and a half to throw together one of these, where previously it would be like a 10-hour or a 12-hour experience. And that just amount of time with how our lives exist right now isn't super feasible, and this feels much more manageable in a way that, like, we could very easily do these maybe even 2 of these a month once we get in the swing of things. You know what I mean? And put these things out more regularly, and have more regular content. And hopefully it's still scratching folks' itch. I mean, we're still going to go over the broad strokes and still get to dive deep into it. And we'd love feedback, what folks think as well.
Yeah. I think keeping the I mean, we've said before going in when we first started doing Tales and throughout that, this is a podcast where our hope is that we are creating a space where people want to share their perspectives, their feelings about things, about the stories we cover, and to have this be a conversation like we are all together, we're all friends, and talk about this thing that we all really enjoy or love or have feelings on, in a safe and constructive space. And I think not all of us have that person we can talk to these things about. So hopefully this is the means to do so, and we encourage people to write in, talk about how you feel about the stories that we are covering on these episodes. And I don't know. I think it's just fun to. I really try to be someone, and I by no means am perfect, but I'm trying to be better with taking in other people's perspectives who I agree with or don't agree with, and really understanding where do I come from in this perspective and where do I land with all this other knowledge. And I think that again, the more perspectives you have, the better and more healthy of a mindset that you have, not just in video games, but as a whole, as a person. And hopefully this is just a way to kind of encourage that for people in a positive way. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But without further ado, Ryan, I'm happy that this is our first game that we're doing this new story analysis thing with. I think it's super exciting, but I cannot state this enough for those who are listening that have not played Clair Obscure Expedition 33. Please do not listen to this. Please come back, go play the game, and come back later. Do yourself a favor. Any other game, I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, if you don't really want to play it, and maybe you will, but it's not a huge deal to you, I'd be like, yeah, just it's whatever. You make the best choice for you. However, this is the game where I'm like, please do not spoil yourself on this story. Like, do not spoil yourself. Do not take that away from you because you can never unlearn what's happened. This is one of those games. I mean, I think it's always kind of like not silly, but it's always like kind of funny to me. People are like, oh, I wish I could lose the memories of this game so I could relive it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's interesting. But like, this is one of those games where I felt that. Like, I would love to forget all about this game just so I can replay it and relive it all over again. Yeah. So it's very exciting. But before we get into the story, Ryan, you've done a great job getting all the background information on this game together. Would you like to start off going through some of that? And we can take turns. So I feel like I'm talking way too much. Sorry.
You're okay. You're totally okay. Yeah, I'm happy to dive into the backgrounds, and then we can either split off on influences or whatever feels right to you. So, background. The developer of this is Sandfall Interactive, a newer team that was published by Kepler Interactive, which, looking into the history of Kepler, they've put out some pretty a broad range of stuff, which is pretty cool. I'm curious to see what other stuff they do. Okay, now, here's the thing. We're getting into French names. I live
really close to right?
I live close to a place where they speak lots of French. I do not speak any French. I took Spanish in high school. I really enjoy the romantic languages, but French, I'm gonna do my best here, and it's gonna be bad, and that's okay.
I think you're doing great. I won't do any better, if not worse. So really, you're doing the best.
So the director is Guillaume Brochet. Broche.
Yeah.
Produced by Francois Merci. Written by Yennefer Svenberg-Yen and Guillerme Broche, the same person who is the director. This game was released in April 24th, 2025. This is by far the closest story we've put out to release by a wide margin.
Ever.
Which is great because I think it's really fresh in our minds and fresh in like the cultural consciousness in a way that will hopefully lead to more engagement. So those are the backgrounds. Eric, I'm happy to dive into influences. If you want to take some of these on, please feel free. I think depending on how we split up the plot, you may be doing a lot of talking or we may be doing a bunch of talking here soon. So whatever feels right to you or however you want to split that up. We haven't talked this through ahead of time. So this will all be cut out in the podcast version, but you viewers get to see how the sausage is made here.
Yeah, I think, and now before we jump into the influences too, I just want to point out, and I'm sure everyone has heard this 1,000 times by this point, if you know anything about Clair Obscure, but I think it's just so interesting that this game was made by roughly like 30 people. of I think it was ex Ubisoft employees, but maybe other ones as well, that were bored and wanted to do something different, something that would likely never have gotten the funding to be made because it would be such a risk on paper. The writer Yennefer was found on where was she found? I had this in my mind. Reddit. She was found on Reddit.
Yeah.
And then the musical composer was found on SoundCloud, which I'm not the biggest music person. I love music, don't get me wrong, but it's like never the first thing I notice about movies. When someone's like, oh, the soundtrack really hit, I'm like, oh, I forgot all about that. I don't even know I don't even know what the music was. This is not one of those games where I just wasn't mindful of it. The music in this game is just amazing. I absolutely I literally have it on my Spotify playlist. I just, it's so good. Minoko's theme is so great, and I want to get more into that later when we talk about that. But there's just so many good songs in this game. I just love it. Yeah. But going into the influences, we gotta start with Clair Obscure. The actual wording, Clair Obscure, references the real-world artistic and cultural movement in France in the 17th and 18th centuries, says Broche. It influenced the game's artistic direction and also refers to the overarching world of the game. What's that word after that, Ryan?
That word, so that chiaroscuro is the how, I'm not sure that's pronounced, but that's if you were to Google that word, it would take you to the art style, and you can look up this art style. It's really interesting. I mean, it's what defines it is these really a lot of shadows and light, like a lot of contrast in these pieces in a way that feels very true to the game, a game that is a lot about shadow and light. And that was what prevailed this art style, and you can see that kind of in the world and the character design, even when you're looking at the menus, right? The amount of contrast you see on the characters' faces and their model. So it's very cool, and I'll talk about this more. That this game feels culturally French in a way that we don't really ever see, in a way that I really appreciate, and we'll talk more about that I think probably towards the end of our conversation. But this is just one example of something that I really love, where that influence is coming from.
I'm really happy you showed me that, Ryan. And for all those who are interested in looking this up, it's spelled CHIAROSCURO. I'm actually want to talk about this later because that just totally references something later in this game that I think is significant. So I want to make sure I don't forget that. I'm saying it out loud so I don't forget. But yeah, so the game is, according to further from Broche, the director and the writer, the game has some great inspiration from Japanese RPGs such as Final Fantasy X, for example, but it also has some big inspiration from more modern JRPGs like Persona 5. From Persona, we took this inspiration that with every click is essential to the action, but no redundant gameplay manipulation to get what you want to do. Every button you click triggers some camera movement and makes it almost action-based when you see some people playing. And that is so true. I mean, I know we're talking about gameplay here, we're talking narratively, but man, the gameplay hits so good. It makes you feel so powerful in such cool ways. Oh, yeah, I'll get more into my favorites later, I think, but it is so cool. In terms of narrative, according to Broche, they took inspiration from the French novel called La Horde du Contrevent. How would you say that, right? I don't know. Contrevent? Yeah, Contrevent. Yeah, which is a fantasy novel about a group of explorers traveling the world.
They go off to search for the wind or something like that. It's a group of 30 expeditioners who go off to find this fantastical wind. It's like this 2004 cult classic in French culture. Again, another really French connection to this story that, again, what I'm so excited about feels so different than the stories and the fantasies that we see, which particularly in games is either Japanese or American culture, that it's really cool to see some European culture come in there.
Yeah, that is very cool. They look for the wind. I just picture they have all this gear. They step outside and they just feel it we did it. We did it. Oh yeah. And go back inside. Action games like the Souls series, Devil May Cry, and Nier Automata, and the rewarding gameplay was something that we wanted to bring into a turn-based setting, says Broche. When they play these games, we want you to learn the attacks, timings, and weaknesses for each enemy encounter, and we wanted to translate that challenge into a new genre. for the whole game, we had more of a Bella Epoch.
Epoch, I would say, but I have no real idea.
Art Deco inspiration. So France from the early 20th century mixed in with high fantasy. That's something that they wanted for the city at the beginning of the expedition, for the extraordinary outfits, for the manner that we see later on, etc. So just such a what a vibe. This game is such a vibe. It does have such heavy, as a person who loves Final Fantasy X, Blitzball's good. I don't care what anyone says. I haven't played it in a long time though, but I do love just like it just feels so much Final Fantasy X. I'm sorry, but in a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
That if Final Fantasy X remake came out, it was just like Clair Obscure's combat, I would be so happy, just incredibly happy. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you see, Ryan, like Square ever taking influences now from Clair Obscure and Sandfall Entertainment's development and just like pulling those into their games?
Maybe. I think probably, unfortunately, any game that's coming out in the next 2 or 3 years has been in development for like 5 or 6 years. Yeah. So maybe, but I don't think we're going to see it for probably another 4 or 5 years. But I think they'd be crazy not to. I think, or this team becomes the de facto team who creates this type of experiences, and in their next game they grow the team and they make something even bigger, because I think like that is also just as likely as Square, a large multinational company that isn't like all large companies aren't particularly good at moving and changing. I don't know. Yeah, I think they should. Yeah. Whether they will or not that's a risk, and large companies are always risk averse.
Yeah. I think this game is just a clear example of why it's important to also not be at the same time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just the success of this. I mean, I think Jeff Keighley. Ow! I hit my hand. I think Jeff Keighley did a great job at the Game Awards, showcasing how I think at least a third, if not half, of the games that are on the top sellers on Steam right now are small independent studios.
Yeah,
and that's like huge. And how Repo and Clair Obscure and Section 1, is that right?
Yes.
Section 1? Okay. I haven't played that one. Are getting huge numbers alongside the likes of Monster Hunter Wilds and I don't know what the other one was that he talked about, but regardless, still, it just shows the importance of it, which again, I think we're getting to this place now, and especially after seeing the abilities of Unreal Engine 5 and then latest update, is just like small teams can make beautiful games, amazing games now. And though I think that bigger teams will obviously have the advantage of making faster games, I still think like give a person a few years and they can make something amazing.
Yeah.
That even was it Axe of Blood that we saw at the Summer Games Fest was made by, well, they said it was made by one person and like 9 of his friends, and I was like, okay, so 9 developers, okay.
Yeah. You also do have. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I think you also do have. I hope we move away from it. We continue to see a lot of this work being like given to contractors who then aren't put in the credits in any way, or they don't need to put them in the credits, or like QA testers and those types of things. But yeah, I think I hope these smaller teams can do some big great stuff, because we need it, because the big companies take too long, and by the time they make their game, if they're chasing a trend, they've missed it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like now more than ever am seeing kind of the negative influences of big companies. I mean, I think we've seen it for years now, obviously, but like, I think the one that comes to my mind the most right now is just Take-Two Interactive, Gearbox, and Randy Pitchford, and just how people with I don't know what you would call it, money, ego, both, influence. Yeah, I mean,
power.
Power. Yeah, I think a sense of control. You can just say whatever they want to say, and just expect everything to be okay. And when it doesn't reach the expectation that they want, it's everybody else's fault. And it's just very frustrating to see that. But then you see a group like Sandfall Entertainment? Sandfall?
I think
Interactive. I think I said entertainment before. Like Sandfall, who are just like this small group of developers who have made this beautiful game and are so supportive and kind and thankful to their audience that spent the time to play it. And it's such a different, going back to narrative, right? Such different narratives of two different companies or two different developers. And I don't know. I think Gearbox could. Oh, I shouldn't say Gearbox. I think there's probably a lot of good people who work at Gearbox specifically who make Borderlands and who do appreciate their audience. I think the people who are more higher up can take a lesson from Sandfall and the other indie developers who are very thankful and open and supportive of their audience.
Or those folks should leave and go start a small studio.
Yeah, honestly, you know what? I think they should. They've shown that if you have a great idea and you know how to execute it and you feel confident in yourself, why not? Yeah. You never know. Yeah. You never know. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think I also, though, I mean, like, we'll get to the plot of this game in a second. I also worry because, like, I was watching the Future Games showcase yesterday, along as the Cozy Games showcase as well. And I just thought to myself, there's so many games. I just don't know how people, I can't imagine that all these games will get played, which kind of breaks my heart because people work really hard on these things. And I think that's like, I can't imagine what even goes into that to make a game. So like, I don't know, it's just so many games, so little time.
A lot of stuff coming out. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't know where I went with all that. That's kind of rambling there. So
that's okay.
But before I jump into the plot, before we go really deep dive into our thoughts, I thought maybe I'd ask you, like, Ryan, having played the game and without going too far into it, where are you at with Clair Obscure? Like, how are you feeling about it? Lightly,
like, and overall?
Yeah, I'd say like overall without giving too many details, then we can go into it more at the end.
Yeah, I think so where I'm at, like, in the game, or do you mean like as a human in my experience
of this? In your experience.
Okay. Yeah. It's a really beautiful game that I really enjoyed, and I think I don't have the I didn't play Final Fantasy X or a lot of the really big Final Fantasy games. I've played like the closest to that experience was like Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube, which I really enjoyed, but haven't really touched a JRPG since. So there's like this, obviously there's this disconnect of this isn't a genre that I play a lot of RPGs, but not a lot of JRPGs. All that being said, this is a really beautiful, really engaging, really fun experience. And I can absolutely feel all of these influences in the experience. I haven't played Persona 5, but I've seen it played. I haven't played Final Fantasy X, but I exist in the world, and Final Fantasy X is a huge part of like the gaming culture and Final Fantasy in general. All of this to say, it's a really incredible game, a really beautiful game, and I think it does such a great job of merging all these genres into a really beautiful experience. And then on top of all that, it is telling and talking about, and we'll get more into this, themes and characters and a story that is like so beautiful. And to me, what is even more incredible about it feels, as I've talked about, like feels French inspired in what it's trying to say and how it's saying it, in a way that I would like to celebrate, right? So yeah, overall, really beautiful experience, really great game. I'm really glad you kept reminding me or asking me to check it out, because I think it was absolutely a good call and a beautiful experience. And I really enjoyed it. And now it's like, where do I go next with this experience, and how much do I dive back in or keep go back to fully live in that world more, because there was a part of me that going back to that world almost feels like, we'll get more into it, but there's like a part of me that's like, man, I don't know what I should do here. But like, there's obviously like the part of me that wants to just play more of this game. So we'll get more into it, but overall, beautiful game, really great experience. I really enjoyed it from start to finish, even times when it felt like really hard because I'm not good at video games. It was fun.
Stop. You say that.
I'm bad. What I'm not good at is like timing and learning movesets, because that is not a game experience I have like spent a lot of time practicing. Systems and structures and those types of things I really enjoy, but like, learning movesets and timings is something that I have not developed the skills yet. Yeah. And that is a big part of this experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I very much in the same vein as you. I think I'm very happy that I had heard about Expedition 33 randomly on a podcast. I never heard of anything about it, but the group of people I was listening to it were really hyped on it, and I thought that's really interesting. I never heard anything about this game. I didn't even see it get announced at, I think it was like an Xbox showcase, I think is what
it was announced at a showcase. Yeah.
And I had no idea. So I looked at a few screenshots. I was like, why is Robert Pattinson in this game? That's weird. I had no idea. But I'm really, I mean, when I was listening to the background of, like, again, the developer size, and it's only a $50 game, and I had all these ex-devs from big companies, and it sounded really interesting. And now, having played it, I feel enriched, but also hollow. I feel like this experience has been so impactful in such a great way, but I feel a little empty now that it's done, in a sense. And I wish also that was on our end, the car, but the motorcycle, I heard it too. I was like, what? But also, like, when you were talking about just now about the other things, about experiencing the other things before, or finishing the game, and then wondering, should you go back to do the other things? I wish I had done the other things first, because I think, at least chronologically in the narrative of the story, that would have made the most sense. But also for me, I was just going and doing a bunch of other things before the end boss, and I was so overpowered. It was crazy. It was like, that's like the one negative I'd say about the experience of the game, is like, I just became so strong. I wish I had scaled with that final boss, had scaled with the group, so it was a little bit more like tough. But regardless, here, I really love this game. It's a narrative that I feel like hasn't touched me in a way that in quite some time. I feel like I haven't been impacted in such a way where, well, we'll get more into it, but, you know, I was left just feeling so many things. I was really stuck in a place for a while at the ending that I even needed to go to my wife and explain the whole narrative of this game that she'll never play, because she wouldn't want to play it. And so she understands the significance of why I'm struggling in that moment of sitting with all this, all these feelings. Which then she became very like, oh, that's really cool. This sounds like a really cool game. And we talk about the themes and all the things like that. It was very fun. So, but yeah, we'll get to that. We can jump right into the plot now. So
let's do it.
Yeah. So without further ado, we're gonna do for the story analyses, we're just gonna do the general plot points of the game, kind of talk through it, stop where we want to stop. If Ryan or I have something to say, whether we like something or not, we'll touch on those. We're not gonna do voices. We're not gonna do super hyper details about the story. It's just a very general thing. And again, if you have not played this, I really encourage you to turn this off now while you have the chance and play this for yourself, and then come back later. This is not going anywhere. Our beautiful faces will still be here if again, if things go well. I'm still looking at the thing. It's like, yeah, you're recording. So we'll see. So yeah, without further ado, let's do this. We begin in the city of Lumiere, which is a parallel version of Paris, France. The Eiffel Tower is in the back of this setting. It is leaning to the side, remnants of the Eiffel Tower floating in the air. It is the day of the annual Gommage, where 32-year-old Gustave, the main character, is walking through the city and meets with his former lover, Sophie, who has just turned 33 years old, and along with all the other 33-year-olds, perishes in what is this Gommage, this yearly event where, in the distance, this giant woman known as the Paintress will stand up to the monolith that she's next to and write the next number down from what was painted on before, and anyone in that age group will perish. They will Gommage, and they will be gone forever. So the Paintress paints the 33 on there. Everyone vanishes. With only a year left to live, Gustave joins Expedition 33. Every year an expedition goes out to try to stop the Paintress. None have succeeded. No one thinks that truly it will, besides a hopeful few, Gustave being one of those people. In the hopes of slaying the Paintress and ending the Gommage, he has created what is known as the Lumina Converter, which helps expeditioners utilize what is known as Luminas, and these special abilities that everyone has a select few, but helps you kind of utilize them more efficiently. And Gustave is this very smart, very interesting character. He has artificial arm. He has this kind of, I don't know, how would you describe it, Ryan? With this kind of just like
the arm, you mean?
Yeah.
What's the word for it?
Too.
Yeah, there's a very specific word that exists in the real world.
It's hard in the moment.
Prosthetic. He has a prosthetic.
Thank you. Prosthetic arm. Yeah. He's a prosthetic arm. Yeah, built by his little not apprentices, but his students that he has with him, because Gustav's very smart and these kids look up to him and they create this arm for him. We don't know how he lost his arm. That's never really touched on. That's okay. It's not really part of it. The expedition goes across the waters from Lumiere to the continent, where they are going to stop the Paintress. Gustav is joined by his foster sister, Maëlle, who is a teenager. She's nowhere near 32 years
9
old.
years away from her Grammage.
Yep, she's still quite a ways away, but she early on conveys the feeling that she doesn't feel like she belongs where she is in the world. She's young, she's very quiet. She's been raised by Gustav and Gustav's sister because her parents were lost to a previous Gummage. And Gustav is very protective of her. He's very hesitant on her going on this expedition, though he does support her doing so. He doesn't want to take that away from her. And so they go off across the continent and they land on the shores of the continent, and they all get off. They are nearly all killed by what they come to see as this white-haired older man who should not exist, because if the Gummage is doing what they think it's doing, everyone is getting wiped out. And so how this older man is there with white hair makes no sense to anyone. Gustav loses sight of Maëlle and all of his fellow expeditioners and makes it out alive, but along his travels finds a mountain of dead bodies of previous expeditioners, and in a moment of weakness considers taking his own life, but is managed to be stopped by his fellow expeditioner known as Lune. And Lune is this very calculated, analytical, and confident woman. She is really cool. She's born from two researchers. Her parents are both researchers, researching the Paintress and trying to figure out a way to stop the Gummage, who they later on go on their own expedition and are never seen again. She convinces Gustav to keep going, try to find Maëlle, and along the way are able to find her in what is known as what's it called? The
manor.
It was in the manor, but also she's found in the flying waters, which we'll get to later.
Oh, right.
Which I think they find her first. So they go to they travel the continent, and there's all these different monsters known as Nevrons. And Nevrons are these creatures that are very known to attack expeditioners and try to kill them. They're these weird, grotesque monsters that seem that they don't fit in the world, but how they're there is a mystery. And Gustav and Lune make it to this small part of the continent known as the Flying Waters, which is this almost like underwater world, though there is no underwater, essentially. Which is absolutely gorgeous. I think it's like such a cool location in the story. And along the way, find Maëlle in this doorway to this expansive, large manor that shouldn't be there. Where they find the curator, this weirdly doll-esque individual that doesn't talk, just groans, but is very connected to Maëlle for some strange reason. From there, they continue to travel through the continent, where they find these beings known as Gestuals. And Gestuals are kind of these, picture the artistic wooden dolls that artists have or painters have, where you shift the doll into different standing poses and things like that. You can draw off them. They're very inspired by those. And the Gestuals are very fond of fighting and combat in general. And arriving at the Gestual village, Gustav, Lune, and Maëlle find their fellow expeditioner Ciel, who is this wild, flirtatious, and fun, confident expeditioner. She's a former farmer who lost her husband in the past and really has nothing left to live for. She has one more year until she Gummages as well, and she kind of just planned on living the rest of her life at the Gestual village and just fighting until the end. So at this point, we have Gustav, Maëlle, Lune, and Ciel all together again, having survived this attack from the white-haired man. And at this point, Ryan, I'm kind of in this position of like, I think what's so cool about this game is that it's just this really strange and weird world, but they're all walking through it like it's just nothing to them, which makes you feel like, okay, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it isn't like this. Maybe it isn't as like, whoa, this is crazy. It's just normal for them for some strange reason.
Yeah.
Were you in the same mindset of like, Why is everyone so chill with this?
Yeah, it was all so strange, and it was just all fantastical and whimsical and weird, in a way that I was like, is this like something out of like French storybooks that I'm supposed to understand but don't understand? Or is there because it feels especially like the Flying Waters piece, right? Where like you see whales flying through the air, but there's like no explanation, which like I don't think there should be, but it just adds to like the whimsy and the weirdness of the continent and this place, this like fully alien landscape, that just feels very strange and weird. And I think I was in the same boat as you. It's like I don't know why things are as weird as they are, but they're like every place you go to is like kind of themed, but in a really weird, in a way that feels none of it feels cohesive, but not in a bad way, and like a a lot of whimsy, a lot of strangeness.
Yeah. I think what this game does really well, and it incorporates well into the plot, is that it doesn't go into holding your hand to explain really anything. Like they don't hold your hand to explain why is there a part of this continent that has just like what seemingly is an underwater world that isn't underwater, or why are there these nevrons that are going and attacking people, or where these gestuals come from. They just act as if this is just a natural part of what life is, and you kind of have to just accept it, because if you don't, then you kind of get overwhelmed with the idea of where is this all coming from. And I think what is great about this plot that the developers did is that they just kind of trust you to, like, if you're going to be invested in this world and this story and make this interesting, which they do, you'll spend the time to really learn and see what happens. You'll want to go around and find these journals of past expeditioners in their last moments on the continent trying to fight the Paintress and what happened to them, and really piecing together the story, which makes it more impactful, I would say. I think from a narrative perspective, they do such a great job of making you want to learn about it, not just holding your hand and overly explaining everything, which is just so monotonous, I would say. I hate that. I really hate when people do that. They don't trust their listener, or they don't trust their listener, they don't trust their player to have the patience or have the drive or have whatever it is to really seek out the answers to what they're looking for, you know?
Yeah, and I think like it makes sense in a medium like video games, right? Like that is how you should be engaging with the world, is through play and exploration and interacting. Whereas like if I'm just being like read a story, or if I'm just reading something myself, that's not fully honoring what this medium was designed to do, which is like interaction and learning and engaging through interaction.
Right. Yes, exactly. I think it's like it makes you pay attention to these moments, because each moment is impactful in some way, shape, or form, small or large.
Yeah.
But even these side conversations that happen when you're at camp together have importance to the dynamics of the characters, and we'll see that more later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know. I think they just do this type of narrative story and relationship building in this game respects the player, respects the player's autonomy to learn what you want to learn. Don't learn what you don't want to learn. If you don't care about it, don't beat yourself over the head, which I think this is kind of what goes against the narrative plot buildings or expression that maybe someone like Hideo Kojima would use. I think that kind of goes, I think that's the reason why I don't love Kojima's games necessarily, because they beat you over the head with the narrative, just the narrative, honestly. Like even like going back to the Summer Games Fest, we watched a clip from something that has absolutely no context to us. It was absolutely felt like a waste of time, and I was like, like I'm sure this from a narrative perspective, this is a very important part of the story, but I have no idea what's happening, and I'm sure I'm gonna have to watch a 40-minute cutscene to really understand. Whereas I could just play this game, and you can like sprinkle this in or make this impactful in a way where like I want to learn more, and after watching that, I have no desire to learn more, honestly. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I think this is such a great story, because like already it makes you invest in these characters who, you know, Gustav is this person who is very relatable. He's timid, but he's smart, and he's courageous, and even in his weakest moments, you can identify like, oh my god, I'd feel like I would be Gustav in this moment. I'd feel so overwhelmed, or I feel like I have to do this thing. He just cares about finding Maëlle, and you see the relationship that he has with Lune, who Lune is again calculated and analytical. She's like, no, we have to continue. You can't just be trying to find Maëlle. You have to. We're here for a reason. We're here to do this thing. Whereas CL is kind of like, I just want to fight everything. Yeah, you know what I mean. She has no kind of rhyme or reason. She's kind of like really has no, again, no purpose to live besides going on this expedition at this point.
Yeah,
So,
she's just like experiencing the world around her in a way that like ends up being a really strong strength in that like she's able to have things happen and wash over her, and she's able to be almost like in some situations the anchor because she isn't like fully giving herself to that, and like kind of be the guide in some way. Yeah, and I think I wanted to go back to one thing, Eric. The start of this game does such an incredible job of hooking you in and making you care about these world and these characters in a way that I think so many other games struggle with. And if you don't have this, like you said, you don't care about the world. Like, you immediately, in this intro sequence, care about all these characters, want them to be successful, and want to solve this problem because the game took time to show you why it matters, why it's important to you, and what the tragedy of this world is when this thing happens. In a way that is, like, really well done.
Just having that moment between Gustav and Sophie.
Yeah.
Not Sophia, right? Sophie, yeah. Making sure.
Sophie.
This way where she is literally like, her gommage is just making these petals come off of her as she just slowly disappears. And you really see the anguish on Gustav's face. And we don't know the extent of their relationship other than the fact that they are former lovers. They did care, or still do seemingly care for each other. We don't know why they even broke up, and we never really do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't even matter. It's the emotional impact that I had to watch someone I love literally just disintegrate into nothing. Mm-hmm. And just imagine too, it's an annual thing. It's this thing that, like, it's almost, I don't know about you, Ryan, now I'm thinking about it too, like walking through like the Gummage like festival, where it felt like everybody was kind of just living this great, like having this great time, living their lives, but really it's like drown the sorrow of death and sadness. And it almost kind of brings me back to the idea that like we as humans adapt very quickly. You know what I mean? And I think that these people likely have done the same, where they've watched their loved ones die every year, where it just becomes this thing where it becomes like almost like desensitized until it really hits them in that moment that person they love is going. And that is what happened for Gustav.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So it's just, I don't know. Again, it gets you so fast, and trying to understand the dynamics between the people. And again, they don't hold your hand. They don't overly explain. They never tell you why Gustav and Sophie don't make it as a couple, right? And because it doesn't matter. It's not what broke them apart. It's what the love that they have still for each other that gets torn away from each other because of the Gummage. That's what's important. Yeah. And we see continued parallels of, here's this thing. It's not important though. There's a reason, but it's not, you don't need it. So here it is, throw it away. You don't need it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like it's like an anti-Chekhov's gun. Chekhov's gun is like, if you see something important, it'll likely be used somewhere narratively later on. Yeah. But I feel like this is one of those games that doesn't really honor that in a good way. I like that.
Yeah, it does not waste time focusing on things that, like, that don't serve the story as a whole. Like, that don't serve with the story it's trying to tell specifically in a way that it feels respectful of players, in that, like, here's this thing, I'm going to tell you, I'm not even going to tell you how this character feels about this. I'm going to show you the heartbreaking look on their face when this thing's happened. That's all you need, because you are human, and as humans, like, we have, every human is so has some sort of empathy, right? And you're connecting with this character and seeing how they feel, and like, you feel it too because you care about this character and what they're feeling. And anything that doesn't serve that very specific story is just like, blinder. It's just, it exists, but if it doesn't matter, we're not going to spend time, thinking about it or putting energy towards it, because we're trying to tell you something very specific here through this story.
Yeah. Here's this. It's not they're not going to tell us the reason. They'll give us the reason, but it's like, don't, you don't need, here's the reason, but it doesn't need to feel anything. You don't need to know more. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're right. You only are given what you need and you move on from there. So it's like, it's just a very interesting way of storytelling. Yeah. So going back to the plot, right? We're in the flying waters, and Miles found in the manor, where again you meet the curator. They go and they find CL at the Gestrel village later on, where they then realize that they are needing some kind of way to travel more effectively. And the party again brings this knowledge up that we have no idea about it, in the form of this mysterious mythical creature known as Esquier. And Esquier is going to be this creature in their mind, hopefully, that can help them cross the sea to reach the Paintress and fight her. They make it to Esquier's lair, his location, where this big puffball of, I think, they never say, but I think he's a Gestial, I'm assuming, in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's hinted at what he is in a weird way after, like, you learn what he is after the game is ended.
Is that right?
Yes.
Is that what that is? Okay. So
Yes.
Okay. So we'll talk more about
that's
that later.
like in narrative. Obviously, that's not what he is because he's full of something very different. But yes,
right.
in the yes. And same with the other really important character to first
right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hold on to those things. Yeah. The party reaches Esquier, whose Esquier is very like very happy-go-lucky, very sweet, very mysterious creature who agrees to go with them if he gets this special rock that allows him to swim in the water. So the adventurers get Esquier's help. They move on to what's known as the Stone Wave Cliffs, and in order to reach the other side of the continent to get where the Paintress is, they have to go through these cliffs because they can't go around, as Esquier won't fly for them, saying that he does not have the proper rock to do so. And again, it's all these nonsensical things that's like, why do you need a rock to do that? They never explain it, and again, it's okay. They just accept it. Esquier needs his rock to fly. He has no rock to fly. We're not flying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The group goes into the Stone Wave Cliffs, where they're attacked by this multi-handed Nevron known as the Lampmaster. And that moment, Ryan, I don't know about you, narratively, I felt just going into that felt so uncomfortable because they do such a great job lighting those lanterns, running up to the Lampmaster, and how interesting that was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they fight the Lampmaster, they beat him, and with Esquier down the waters below, Lune and Ciel jump down, and before Gustave and Maël do, Maël convinces Gustave to throw some rocks, as they do together. It's something that they do. They like to just throw rocks and talk. Unknowingly so, though, behind them walks the old white-haired man who attacks Gustave and ensnares Maël in this kind of like force field thing, and unfortunately kills Gustave in his attack, which was just, what a way to begin only the first act of 3. You are introduced, you see the tragedy of Gustave from losing Sophie and then thinking he lost Maël through the adventures of the continent, to just wanting to do what's best for the world and then being killed in front of his foster sister. Yeah. And making you as the viewer going, what is happening? Like, why is this guy doing this? Why would he, as a fellow human being, want to kill someone who's trying to stop the Gummage? Yeah. It makes absolutely no sense. Whereas this old man is saying, I'm doing you a service. I'm doing you a kindness by doing this. I'm saving you from something. Yeah. But when that happened, right, I was in shock. When Gustave dies, I was completely in shock and thinking to myself, he'll come back.
Absolutely. Sure. That was my thought too. Like, I was like, I think when I was playing this part, I like even mentioned to you, like, he mentioned something weird about waking up by a waterfall. I bet there's something there. I bet like there's some dark secret that he will come back in some way, or that he'll be saved. And even as I got close to the end of the game, I was like, okay, so when do they bring Gustave back to really bring this home? Like, when does, and we'll talk about like at the end when we get there, like more of why that could happen. But I was convinced up until like the very end of the game that Gustave was going to come back at some point.
Me too.
But yeah, it was heartbreaking. It was intense. It really made you understand like the stakes of this story and this experience, and like really put a chip on Maël in a way that I think was important to the story. Yes. And I think like Gustave was the heart of this story in some ways, and I think continued to be even after he died.
Yeah.
Because because Gustave is somebody who was optimistic and who, you know, sometimes often happens, people pass away, like you remember the best version of that person. And I think that continued.
Yeah. Like, I think he was arguably, maybe not compared to Lune, but in a sense, he was arguably the most like important part of the expedition. Like he was the person that was putting everything on the line. He had created this converter that would help them be more powerful in their expedition than compared to any other expedition before them. He had truly believed that he could stop this, in a sense that if he pushed hard enough, he believed he could do this. He even went against, we see early on, we didn't touch on this, but before he leaves for the continent, his sister's like, this is a silly thing. I don't think you should be doing this. Why are you going? You're just going to die. Whereas Gustav believes he can do something. He can, even if it's dying in the process, he'll set up the next expedition for success.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's very profound that his death is what leads to the major theme, I would argue, of this game of grief. Right? He really is the linchpin that begins us down this journey of grief. What does grief mean? And like you said, Ryan, we see this in Mael. We really experience all this with Mael, and it permeates throughout the whole story because Mael brings it up again, right? And we'll talk more about that in a second too. So I think it's Gustav is so much more important to the story than I think he gets credit for.
Yeah,
I think everyone looks at him as I thought we are gonna get more of him because he had so many skills that were locked. Which then you look at it and like he was very powerful to begin with. His arm was like insanely powerful, so it makes a lot of sense that he wasn't going to live very long. But in our minds, like they took the gameplay and they made us think that he had significance throughout the story.
Yeah,
I think, which is a great way of making you not know what's going to come next narratively. One of those like few times in a gameplay perspective that influenced how you saw the story going. In a really cool way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the white-haired man kills Gustav and kind of pushes Mael. He does like a Doctor Strange move, which pushes Mael's like soul out of her body, and she hears voices of the white-haired man and this other woman saying, having this argument as to why is Mael here? What is she doing here? She's not wanted here.
Yeah.
Whereas Mael comes back to the present again, kind of surprising the old white-haired man. And before he can strike her down, this mysterious man jumps in and stops the old man's sword or cane, or whatever you want to call it, with his own sword. And it's this. I feel bad. I felt so bad. I told this to you when I saw you once, because you had gotten past this part and I touched on it. I was like, not only did Gustav just get totally just wiped out, right? But to be like the hot guy of the expedition, to then be replaced by an even hotter guy, like that hurts. That
takes
hurts.
all your swords.
Takes all your swords and does it better. Has a more fun, like a more fun gameplay mechanic in my opinion. I think it's like it's so funny. It's like, man, that sucks. The white-haired man accuses this new hot guy of getting in the way when he shouldn't. That he had chosen to leave this life and that he didn't deserve to be here. Which for the narrator, for us as watching this narration happening, we're like, what? We have no idea what's going on. This makes absolutely no sense.
What a mysterious man this is. He's so hot.
Yes, he's so but this new man tells Mael to jump down to Esquier and leave with her team, that she is safe now and that he's sorry he couldn't save her friend. Mael jumps down, they leave, the new man and the white-haired man have an interaction, kind of hinting that there is a dynamic, a relationship there that we do not know about yet as the scene fades away. And they look out into the view to the paintress, who is sitting on her throne, seemingly weeping as she always does. Yeah. The party camps out when they get to land with Esque. They camp out. The group is obviously very shaken. I think this is the moment, I could be wrong, where Lune and Ciel talk about how they haven't really talked to each other very much, and that the last time they really had a meaningful conversation was when they both were hit by the Gummage through their loved ones dying. And that's the last time they really sat down with each other and talked in a moment, and how it was really hard to have other conversations after that.
Yeah, and you learned Lune as a character, right, pushed Ciel away because they had other things they needed to focus on, which really speaks to, and again, fully informs you everything you need to know about Lune and who they are as a character in some ways, like what their drive is, what they care about. They're willing to put aside like their own personal desires and relationships for what they believe is this greater good. It's really great writing that really clearly communicates like these two characters, one who's more willing to live in the moment and one who is willing to sacrifice the moment for long term.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I think it's like different drives, though, going towards the same goal.
Yeah.
And again, it shows you the differences between these two individuals, though their goal is the same, but their means are going to be different. And I think while Act 1 did a great job setting things up and really starting to roll the snowball into what relationship dynamics is in this narrative, with this being the end of Act 1 and going into Act 2, I would argue Act 2 and Act 3 have much more significance in showing you relationship dynamic building in the plot of this game in a real significant way.
Yeah.
And I think even just going into this next part, when at this camp, the mysterious stranger that saves Mael walks up and introduces himself. His name is Verso. And he explains to them that he is a surviving member of the very first expedition, Expedition Zero. And that the white-haired man that killed Gustave, his name is Renoir, who was their commander. And that Verso and Renoir, for whatever reason, stopped aging when they arrived at the continent during their first expedition. And that he believes that Renoir has come to believe that he's immortal. His immortality was granted by the Paintress, and that for Renoir, he wants to protect her at all costs, that this is a gift. For Verso, he has grown tired of his immortality, and he just wants to end his suffering, essentially, by ridding the Paintress. I don't know, you highlight this moment, Ryan. Is this significant to you?
I highlighted it and because I put that I think there's a lot of moments throughout the story where you're not sure if Verso is telling the truth or not. Yeah. And I just highlighted this because this, like, in the end ends up being incredibly true to who Verso's character is, in a way that Verso is telling you everything in this moment. You just don't understand it yet.
Yeah. And I think for those, I'm assuming everyone that's listening to this has beaten this story now, right? So, but we see, right, Verso is not a reliable narrator. This is true. I think this is core to his belief of what he is seeking to do.
Yeah.
But his means, truly, he is, as much as he is, I would argue, despite his handsomeness, despite the care that he has for the expedition team, I think he truly does. As much as he is a protagonist in the story, I would deem him an antagonist as well. I would see him as an anti-hero in this narrative, because though he does build connections, his ultimate goal here is his ultimate goal. It does not matter what happens really to anyone else, because he's really seeking this means to an end.
Yeah, and I think, like, there's maybe I'll wait and we'll talk about it more at the end. I think, like, there's moments where he makes choices that serve that ultimate end, but there's another layer there that, like, make things more complicated.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. She's touching on that a little bit. Yeah. So after Verso introduces himself, he has brought Gustave's arm and the Lumina converter, because seeing that it was probably important to them on their expedition, and that'd be the thing that would propel them forward more. Verso leads the group to a beautiful spot by the Stone Wave Cliffs, I believe. Or I think it was by the Stone Wave Cliffs. I'm not sure exactly where it was.
It's after the battlefield.
Was
I
it?
think. Yeah.
Where they lay Gustave to rest. They have a little burial for Gustave. They leave his arm there. It's very emotional for Mael. And again, really touches on grief. For Mael, she's lost really everything in her life. She's lost her parents. She has lost this father figure in her life that was important to her. And you really see the actors do such a great job, and the writing, especially too, of course, do such a great job showing you how much Mael cared about Gustave without her beating you over the head with it narratively. I think that you see it in the actions, you see it in how she looks at him, you see it in just their behaviors together. This act of just throwing stones together meant so much to her. Yeah. And to see that he's gone now and not coming back it hits Mael so hard that you see the emotional impact of that without having to be told. Yeah. Which is, again, great. Verso leads the expedition to find his friend over in the snowy parts of the continent, the friend being named Minoko. And Minoko is a gestural that Verso feels would be helpful on their journey. And Minoko is awesome. I love Minoko.
Minoko's great.
Like all gestrals, he is focused on fighting. He likes to fight. And his special ability being that he collects the legs of other Nevrons, I should say, and can transform into those Nevrons when he has their legs. And I love that. It's this weird thing. It's like, I think it's almost Verso or the group comments like, he collects legs. That's really strange. And Minoko just like, he's so weird and chill with it. It's just accepted. He just collects legs, and it's all good. Yeah. There's also this moment where, again, the game does such a great job of showing you, not telling you about the dynamics these characters have when there is a history between them. Like we saw with Gustave and Sophie, like we see even with Gustave and Lune and Gustave and Mael, where Verso is trying to recruit Minoko into this, and Minoko's like, I'm not doing this, there's no way. And Verso's like, there's probably gonna be a lot of fighting. And Minoko's like, you think so? And Verso's like, yeah. And Minoko's like, all right, I'm in. And Verso's like, yeah, okay, sweet.
Out of the question. I will never join you again.
There will be a lot of fighting, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
There will be a lot of fighting.
Exactly.
Count me in then.
Good.
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 Yes, good.
You see the history they have between you. Like, Verso knows just what to say to entice Minoko to come on this journey because they have such a steep history. Verso's been here for so long, and so has Minoko.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just very interesting to see that dynamic. And again, we've only known Minoko for like 15 minutes at this point, but you see that history, and it's like, okay, Minoko's along for the ride. You know what I mean? He's really... I didn't know this, even though I'm a Final Fantasy fan, but apparently he's very much in line with what you would call Blue Mage. Blue Mages transform into different beings. I didn't know that. Yeah, but that's what Minoko is, essentially, which is really cool. His mask is like the cool part of it. So, all together, they go to Old Lumiere. This is where Lumiere used to be before the world fractured unexpectedly. So the Lumiere we know that we came from was once originally part of this place in the continent now, which is filled with Neverons and seemingly dead. They reach they're in search for the Paintress's heart, which is needed to kill her or destroy the barrier that is protecting her at the monolith where she sits. And they make it to this manor, this seemingly teleported away after a fight with Renoir, where Verso admits that he is, in fact, Renoir's son. And that this masked girl that's always with Renoir, with this white hair, who, again, wears this kind of partial mask over her face, is the masked girl that's also in the dreams that Mael has. His sister, Alicia. I said that right? That's how they say her name in the game?
Yeah, Alicia. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
After that battle, Renoir teleports the mansion away with the heart of the Paintress inside of it, thwarting Vernoso's plan. I said Vernoso, like Verso and Minoko together, thwarting Verso's plan. And Verso's very upset by this. It's his one way to try to get to the heart. And you see in that moment before this, back at Minoko's station, where Verso looks at Minoko and goes, you know what Mael looks like, right? Like, this is our chance. This is our chance to do this thing. Again, this unspoken thing that they've talked about, like they are understanding that they need to do. They both are on the same path, though you don't really know this from Minoko. It's never really said in the game that Minoko has the same essential goals as Verso, I would argue.
Yeah.
And so, going back to this, Lune suggests that they instead forge a powerful weapon from the heart of the axons on the continent, around the continent, which Verso immediately is like, no, they're too strong. There's no way we could ever beat these axons. But Lune and the rest of the expeditioners feel like there's no other choice. They have to go get the hearts of these axons, which were created by the Paintress to protect her in the barrier that she's behind. So they go. Well, I mean, at this point right now, you kind of like, are you all in, or is it too much? I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that there's more to this story, and we've probably even talked at this point. I know there's more to the story than I fully understand, and I had like some predictions on what I thought might happen, but it was all like, I was still fully bought into like what we needed to do. I had some ideas and some theories, but I still like, these group of characters are great. Verso, like, there's some mystery there, but he seems like he cares at least a lot about Mael, and like starting to force some relationship with others, and has a relationship with Eske, who Eske is like this, like, seems to be this like pretty chill dude, and if Eske likes Verso, then I'm down too, and same with Minoko, right? So there's this like, I'm fully invested in what these folks are trying to do. The Axons were like really cool fights, really cinematic, really fun, and added to this like weird whimsical like part of this world in a really beautiful way. But yeah, I was ready to go and take on the Paintress and figure out what happened next.
Yeah, I was very surprised by the sudden twist with the Axons, and we're not going to touch on the Axons too much. I think that they're not really super necessary to talk about too deeply with the story narrative. Though the only part I would really touch on is that when they go to the second Axon, whose name I forget off the top of my head, the dancing one, and she has everyone see loved ones that have passed on as a way to manipulate them to not attack her. We see, Ciel sees her husband and their unborn baby. Lune sees her parents. Maëlle sees Gustave. I don't think Minoko sees anyone that I remember.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but
I think Minoko was unfazed, was like unaffected.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. But Verso has no one. Mm-hmm. That if I remember correctly, there's no one in front of him, right?
Yeah.
That he sees in this illusion, and he kind of looks at everybody else like, okay, well, we need to stop this. We need to go after this thing and kill it, and take its heart. Which again says a whole lot without saying it, right? Mm-hmm. We see the motivations of all these people on the expedition, what they've lost and what they're trying to stop. For Verso, we still don't know these motivations. There's still things behind these layers of walls that he's built that we just are not certain of.
Yeah.
So after they get the hearts of the Axons, they go to, surprisingly, the Curator.
Yes.
The Curator is the one who crafts the sword to break the barrier to the Paintress in the form of a rapier for Maëlle, which is a really cool sword too. It is so sick. I love the design of these weapons in the game are designed so well. The party break the barrier and enter the enter the monolith, I should say. And along the way, before going to the Paintress, run into Renoir one more time, and after fighting him, kill him or end him finally. From there, after going past Renoir, they confront the Paintress, who, after discussing, is revealed to be Verso's mother, Aline.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, Aline. And after a crazy fight, such a cool fight, and she's such a cool intimidating presence. Yeah. And again, mirrors what looks like to be the Curator. Mm-hmm. Looks very similar to the Curator. I managed to kill her and erase the number from the monolith, which is this really exciting moment. And it almost felt like to me, Ryan, like the end of the game. I thought like this would be where they end the game.
Yeah.
This $50 experience, this is where they end it narratively to set up the next one. Something's going to happen and we'll be left here not knowing what's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, did you feel like this is the end of the narrative at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I was a little confused because like Act 3 hadn't like ticked, like nothing had appeared. And in my mind, not that the game said there'd be 3 acts necessarily, but like stories have 3 acts, like that is just how stories are told. So that didn't tick over, so I like wasn't exactly sure what was going on. And at this point it was like pretty late. It was like late on a Thursday night or a Friday night or something. And so I was like, I'd finally beat Renoir. I finally beat the Paintress after trying for a few hours. And then at this point I was like, I was just like taking it all in and like trying to understand, okay, like what even would happen next. Like I know there's something else. I got the sense from like the way Renoir and Verso were speaking and Renoir's like the way that he was like communicating non-verbally. And then the third phase of that boss fight where she's like lying on the ground healing you. I was like, there's something else going on here that I don't understand. And I don't know what it is, but it's, the shoe's going to drop. Something's going to happen. So I knew like something else was going to happen here. I didn't know what it was though.
Yeah. I think I was so... I feel silly now. I was looking back. I didn't even realize that she was healing me. I was just so in the zone of wanting to be her. I didn't even like really put that together until afterwards. And I was like, what? That was so weird. Until seeing what comes next, right? And the significance of that.
Yeah. It's such like knowing the end. Like that is such like a powerful like clue that the game is giving you.
Yes.
That it's really cool. Yeah.
This almighty being healing your party for some reason. It's like knowing that we're there to kill it.
Yeah,
we're to kill her. Like it's again. I probably say it so many times in this recording. This plot does not tell you; it shows you.
Yeah.
shows you, and which is just, again, the differences between other directors or narrative beats from other games, where it's just like exposition with exposition that could have been done so much better in a constructive way that's interesting, and not like just a book of lore being hit across your face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
absolutely.
it's just drowning in all the lore. Knowing that he was the initial protagonist we were playing as, essentially, to know that she was right is kind of like bittersweet in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so then everyone's happy, everyone's celebrating. But then, of course, we see Verso, and Verso looks off. Verso looks, kind of to himself, and he opens the letter that he got from Alicia. And I forget, Alicia is the one with the mask, the white mask, white hair. I forget where he gets the letter, though. I forget when he gets it. I think she gets off to him at some point.
Yeah, when they show up in camp at one point, they show up to talk to Verso. I think before facing the Axioms, maybe. I don't remember exactly where, but like at some point Renoir and Alicia show up and are like, "Hey, are you sure?" And there's all this hint of like, you don't actually know what you're doing. Like, you don't actually know. Like, they think they're helping, but they're not. Like, there's this like more of this like coded language. Like, what do you mean? What's going on here? Yeah, and that's where Alicia gives Verso the letter.
Okay, all right. And then I think he sits on the dock, which is very symbolic of the Gummage that we see in the very beginning. And he sits on the dock that overlooks the horizon where the Paintress once was, and the monolith still stands with no numbers on it. And it's beautiful, it's bright. And he opens that letter, which reveals as he reads it that Aline, the Paintress, the mother of Verso, had actually been stalling the real Renoir the whole time, and that the Renoir we knew, the one who killed Gustave, was actually a painting that the Paintress had created, and that this real Renoir is in fact responsible for the yearly Gummage, and that the number on the monolith throughout all these times, all these years, was a warning to Lumiere and its citizens that those are the ones that were going to die, that she could only protect everyone below that number because of Renoir and his constant Gummage yearly trying to force Aline to leave, and that without Aline's protection, the entire population of Lumiere will die, which is exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And so, and what's so, again, interesting, which really paints this picture, and I think this is very pivotal, I put this in our document too when I was thinking about it yesterday, is that this has been Verso's mission this whole time. He knew what was going to happen, and we get that context that he at one point met Clea when they were on the continent. She explained the whole situation, that Aline came to the painting after a tragedy that we'll get to in a second, and painted these painted versions of Renoir, Alicia, and this Verso that we know, as well as Clea, and that he is a fake of an actual version of Verso in quote unquote real life, and so it's in his goal, and which explains again the immortality as well. He is a painting. He is a part of this world, but he is bestowed upon these powers from the Paintress herself, from Aline herself, which is why he can't die, which is why Renoir couldn't die, and hypothetically Alicia and Clea can't die as well. And so that you see that Gummage wave just come from the continent and sweep over and devastate all the citizens of Lumiere, which is so wild.
Yeah.
And again, Verso's whole objective, he knew what the real Renoir has been trying to do, and essentially has been helping that version, going against the version he grew up with. Yeah. And so, and we'll get more into that as well. They mention little things about the story that's very interesting that we'll get to in a moment, but again, it almost paints Verso as this anti-hero in my mind. Like he's building these relationships with the expeditioners. He's talking to them at camp. He is connecting with them. I think he truly does care for them. Yeah. But knowing that they will die if they succeed, which they do.
And I mean, I think another piece is he knows they're going to die even if they fail. Also, like no matter what, in his mind, they're already gone. Doesn't make it any better, like to form these relationships and connect with these folks, but he certainly speeds it up.
Yeah, and I think there's I think it's easy to overlook because again, they don't like beat you over the head with this. It's something to really sit with. Is like this Verso being the like quote unquote painted or fake Verso, and the real Verso share something in common, and that Aline is both of their mother. Right? There's no painted Aline. Aline is the only one that is not. There's no painting of her, no recreation of her, and again, I keep saying it. You'll get some more to that in a second because we have to talk about something else first. But I think there's a love and a compassion there, and when we see the paintress sitting in her giant chair crying, right, that really paints this, no pun intended, picture of what is truly going on. And I imagine it being Verso, if I'm being empathetic for a moment, I imagine it's very painful to see, to know that that's the mother that you grew up with in this twisted world, and that she's being impacted negatively. He knows so much more than everybody else.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel like Verso is not such a good? He's a good guy, but though he is flawed entirely.
Absolutely. I think all of these characters have flaws. I do think Verso is the character who has the most information.
Yeah. And
denied, and there's a reason behind this, so we can get into this, denied telling the expeditioners he was with why. And I think there's talked about why he doesn't. That doesn't mean he shouldn't have tried again, right? After he's connected with these folks and denied them the chance to like have that conversation.
Right.
Made that choice for them. In a way that wasn't great, but I mean certainly there's like a villainous aspect to that, like having that information and not sharing it. Same with not sharing what we're going to find out shortly, what he knew of Alicia and Mael, and what he knew about this whole situation. Like I think there's like some communication that could have happened,
right?
But at the same time, he's been alive for decades. And I don't know what that does to your ability to see people as people in the same way. But I feel like there's certainly more good could have happened there.
Yeah. I think a big frustration that I have too, that I was going to hold off to the ending, but I think it's a good point to kind of bring on here, is one of the only gripes I have about this game is the ability for Verso to build these romantic relationships with either Ciel or Lune. And for myself, I accidentally went with CL. I didn't know that was the intent. I didn't know that was going to happen, which I immediately regretted because I just don't see them being anything. And I was wondering if it would have an impact on the ending. So to know that Verso, and I mean, not even to get to the ending part yet, but even to know that Verso didn't give them the autonomy to make the choice, because he was going to do it no matter what. He's going to try to do this no matter what. To give them the autonomy to make the choice that they wanted to make, knowing full well, did not give them that. I understand it, but again, it takes away from what was the point of even trying to have these romantic relationships anyway. I don't think they were necessary at all. I don't think he should have been romantic with any of these people. I think it was... it felt shoehorned. I don't think it was beneficial to the plot. It wasn't beneficial to the character dynamics or the development of the relationships. I think they could have done all those things without having to make it romantic, just because they're opposite genders. I just think it was not needed, personally. Yeah. So then, of course, with everyone dies except for Verso, right? We transition to a flashback and the actual reality, where it's revealed that Alicia and her family are painters. Alicia being Mael. And we kind of make that connection. We see Mael. She wakes up in what is known as the real world, and we see the scars on her face, and she's missing an eye, and she looks older than herself from the painting that we were just in, because that world is a painting, as we all know, right? And that she and her family are these painters, and they have these magical abilities to create worlds within canvases, and that in reality they're actually living in 1906 Paris, in the reality that we all live in now, right? And that the real Verso died saving Alicia from a fire that left her disfigured and mute and losing an eye. I think it was her right eye that she lost. And this fire is credited to this war that Clea is the only one that really is focusing on that again they touch on and they never go back to, which I think is totally great. And the idea there's this war between painters and writers have what we're guessing is this ability to manifest things the same way painters can through a different medium. We don't know why they're fighting. We don't know the motivation. We don't know why Clea is so involved in it. But we know that the writers of this war are responsible for the death of the real Verso. And that this painting... go ahead.
In some way, Alicia caused whatever the situation was that led Verso to be killed.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Mm-hmm. We don't have any context of what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and that this world that we've been in these first 2 acts has actually been a painting that the original Verso had painted when he was a child.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we see Alicia or Mael, right, walking through the same manor that we have seen throughout Act 1 and Act 2. At the random points where we see the door and we go inside, and it's the weird manor that we have no idea what's going on. It's the actual manor from the real world that she lives in with her family. The family is grieving the death of Verso, and Aline, the mother, inherited his canvas, which contains Lumiere and painted copies of, again, Verso, Alicia, Clea, and Renoir, and then ran away inside because she is so lost in her grief that she just wanted to feel normal again, and made this fake family to the dismay of her real family. And again, we have, Renoir in real Renoir who is distraught as well, and just wanting his wife back, and just wanting his family to move on from this and grieve their son. Clea, who's fighting this war and upset that she lost her brother and seems to blame Alicia in some way, shape, or form. Alicia, who again disfigured, mute, and missing an eye, who has been lost in this canvas that we realized, she went in and then kind of lost herself in the canvas and ended up living this whole life that she forgot what her real life truly was. And it definitely seems that time moves so much slower in the real world comparatively than in the canvas. The canvas must go very fast. So the real Renoir seeks to destroy the canvas by gradually purging its oldest creations in an attempt to help his wife move on and bring her home. Clea is the oldest sister, and she advises Alicia or Mael to enter the canvas and destroy it to break the stalemate between their parents, so the family can focus on their war with their rival faction, the Writers. Why does that sound so cool? On paper, it doesn't sound cool, but you think about it, it's kind of cool.
I really hope they make a sequel down the line that is fully disattached from this, that is just about a writer's version of this. And then the next game maybe talks about that conflict. I just want to explore the magic before I live in the real world, I think.
Yeah. I would love to see a game from Sandfall that is just this kind of seems like a whole new game. It seems to have no attachments to Expedition 33. Okay, they're doing a new IP, but then you realize this is a writer's story. And this is a writer's world from the narrative. And then you kind of see how that affects the writer's sides of things and how that works.
Right. And we find out this family who we've grown to love and care about in this game, what the perspective from the it's a fun story to be explored.
What if? Sorry, I wasn't trying to stop you right now. I was getting excited. I'm so sorry. I'm so mindful that we're getting recorded that I feel like I talk with my hands so much it's hard.
Yeah.
What if, Ryan, we play a whole game from Sandfall, the next game, we play this narrative. It has nothing to do with Expedition 33. We're playing the protagonist. We fall in love with the story. We fall in love with the characters. But one of the characters we fall in love with, we realize is the person who set up Mael or Alicia and killed Verso.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine how crazy that would be? That'd be crazy. Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And then you realize, oh my god, this is not a good person. He killed somebody. You know what I mean? It'd be so wild. Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. I love that. Again, I just cannot stop saying it, but they don't beat you over the head with this, and they also have set themselves up, the developer, of having this expansive world that is literally endless. Truly is so cool. What a great idea. So Ciel, the oldest sister, advises Alicia or Mael to go into the canvas and break the stalemate between the family so they can end this war. Alicia obliges, and she is reborn again into the canvas as Mael after being overwhelmed by Aline's powers.
She loses her memory of being Alicia.
Yeah, and that's where she begins this journey as Mael. She's overwhelmed by her mom's powers, and then gets lost in that world, and then grows up. I think like 16 to 19 years of
Yeah.
as
16,
a
I
whole.
think.
Yeah, I think 16 too. As a whole different person in her mind, right?
Yeah.
So with Mael's death, going back to the current time, Alicia regains her memories of the present and reawakens in what remains of Lumiere. She reunites with Verso, the painted Verso, who has been trying to expel their mother from the canvas for her own good, even if it meant erasing himself. And I wrote here, we learned the journals of the game and discussions that Verso had lived his life thinking that he was the real Verso because his mother had painted him to be so. And that the fire that took the real Verso's life still happens in this world, but does not kill this Verso. He lives past it, which again, I think is Alicia's design to have her son live through the fire, but still disfigures Alicia. And I think might have also, I think she still talks. I think she talks at least telepathically in some sense, but still disfigures Alicia, which says so much about her grieving and her perspective towards her daughter and the hand that she had supposedly played in the real Verso's death.
Yeah.
So and all this comes from the real Clair, who comes to explain the whole situation to these painted versions of themselves. Mm-hmm. So wanting to protect the canvas world, Alicia, I'm gonna call Mael Alicia from now on. So heads up. Alicia uses her newly discovered painter powers. She's remembered all the things that have happened in her real world and through her time in Lumiere, and revives the expedition and leaves to regroup before battling her father for control of the canvas. And it's at this time, around this time at least, where she talks to Verso, who admits that he let Gustave die out of fear that he would hold back Mael from discovering who she really was or helping him to kill the paintress. And though Mael is upset, she understands his choice. Mm-hmm. And I think she only understands this choice because she believes that she can bring Gustave back.
Yeah.
I think if she didn't think she could, there would be a very different reaction to all this.
Right.
But again, it's interesting because I don't know about you, Ryan, but I felt there was this... If I knew someone I loved died and the person that I had been traveling with this whole time and supporting, and they support me, I found out they let the person I love die, and I could just write that off because whatever, I can bring this person back to life. It makes it so hollow. Because again, Verso is showing his cards. He is telling Alicia, I let your, this foster father brother figure die, right? And she's like, I understand, I get it, right? When again, it's just him showing what he's willing to do to make this happen. And I think that they're just so lost in the idea that they are in some way, shape, or form connected that she writes it off.
Right.
Whereas I think if she didn't have that power to bring back Gustave, she would never have let that go.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. It just makes it so... I think this shift from Mael to Alicia, where Alicia's in the painted world again, and she has all this knowledge, all these powers, really shifts Alicia into the person that we see towards the end of the game, of course, obviously, right? But in such a different mindset of how she sees the world, right? Absolute power corrupts absolute. Yeah. That's how I see Alicia now. Though she has the best intentions. She truly does. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I do think that absolute power corrupts absolute. We see it with Alicia. We see it with Aline. We see it with Renoir, right? It's just like a constant theme I keep seeing in the story. Where, I can bring things back. I have the power to do so. So it just makes everything so hollow.
Mm-hmm. If you can fix those problems in that way, you don't have to face the real problem, right? If you accept that, don't worry about it, I can bring it back. You don't have to face the conflict of, you're somebody I care about and you've been lying to me this whole time. You can just bury that away and move on and not think about it. And I think also something that I always kept reminding myself is, Alicia is still a kid, right? Is still like a child. And so the way that she moves through the world and sees the world, even though she's lived 2 of these lifetimes to 16. She's still like a child in how she, is moving through this world and sees the world and her perspectives that she has. Not that that's not valuable, and not that she doesn't have experiences that are, worth listening to, and words and thoughts and ideas that are worth listening to, but understanding her perspective is one of somebody who has lived life to a certain point twice.
Right.
And both of those have been very tragic.
Yeah. Yep. I think it really shifts her perspective of what she's looking to do.
Yeah.
And the value that this canvas has, but I think even more so than what it truly is, which is a canvas made by her legitimate brother. Mm-hmm. It's not even about that. It's about what this painting and the what this painting holds that truly matters to her, the dynamics that these painted people have in her life and what they mean to her. That is more so the importance, right? It's like it's kind of very in line with Aline, where she just wants to protect this canvas to sit and avoid the grief that she's having with her loss of her son, whereas Alicia, now being disfigured, mute, and partially blinded in a sense, wants to just live as normal as possible, and this is the world that she can do that in. Which, again, I totally validate that. It makes total sense why that would be the case.
Yeah.
So after traveling the continent, Alicia admits that she can't just bring people who have died for quite some time back, but she can collect the essence of the dead expeditioners from the past from around the continent, which they do. They go all around the continent, finding dead expeditions, collecting their essence essentially. When they finally fly back to Lumiere for their final confrontation, Mael summons the dead expeditioners who fight the Nevrons that have been placed there because, and I don't think we mentioned this yet too, but Renoir has so much power in this world despite being weaker than Aline, because he learned to paint from Aline, because Clea has given him these weapons known as Nevrons, right, to help back him up. Mm-hmm. So Mael, or I should say Alicia, sends these dead expeditioners to fight the Nevrons in order to make it to Renoir. And something I just really put together is that she, again, manipulates the souls of these dead expeditioners, though they probably would have wanted to do this anyway, takes their essence and forces them to fight, right? Is it kind of more less in line of just being a normal person in the world and more of a god figure of manipulation and usage for one's own gain. Yeah. Has truly shifted. Even though she's the same person, she truly has shifted in the sense of how she sees the world, I would say.
Yeah, and I think if you take somebody who has no power for their whole young life and who constantly can't protect the people they love and can't do things about the people that they care about, then you give them the power to change that. I mean, that's just something that of course they're going to take it on. Of course they're going to do whatever they can, because their whole life they've just keep losing people. Right. Now they have the power not to ever lose somebody again, right?
Yeah. I mean, and Alicia's lived 2 lives. Mm-hmm. And she has lost so much in both lives that it makes I think you're 100% right, Ryan.
Yeah.
I think it's Before fighting, Renoir explains that as precious as the canvas is to him and his family, destroying it is the only way to bring his wife and his daughter back to the real world so they can finally end the cycle of grief and move forward. The real Renoir's motivations are very pure. He just wants his family to get back on track and live their lives, not get lost in these paintings.
Yeah.
And he eventually relents and promises... I'm sorry, he shouldn't say that yet. They fight. Mm-hmm. Renoir is extremely powerful because he is the curator, as we know. Mm-hmm. And throughout the fight, he's very difficult unless you did a lot of extra stuff and got really overpowered and it wasn't that bad. Yeah. At one point, the paintress actually comes back in and supports you, which is so cool. That was such a cool thing that they put in there. That Aline comes back in.
She put herself back in, right? She immediately throws herself back in, even though she knows that this is going to continue to. It is hinted that the longer you spend in a painting, the more it deteriorates your body or your soul or who you are in some way.
Yeah, it kills you.
And
essentially.
She's thrown herself back into it again.
Which I think it was they even said too is it'd be too soon for her to come back in.
Yeah,
but still she does it.
She won't come back. Don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah, she still does it. So when they beat Renoir, he eventually relents and he promises to Alicia that he'll leave the lights on for her eventual return, which she seemingly encourages, yeah, I'll be home, don't worry, but has absolutely no intent of doing that. is just
Right.
going to be the next Aline in the world of Lumiere and the canvas that Verso had painted.
Yeah.
So realizing that Alicia has no plans to leave the canvas and eventually die due to her prolonged stay, Verso reaches out to the last remnant of the canvas, aka the real Verso's soul, which we see throughout the whole game as that little boy who looks like the curator. And what a cool twist. It makes me want to go back and reread all those times we talked to him and what he was saying, because I think it'll make so much more sense.
Absolutely.
And actually, there's a part I won't give away because you haven't done this part yet, so I don't want to give away for other people. It's a side thingy where you see him, and after I beat the game. So talking to him, I was like, "Oh my god, this makes so much more sense than if I did not know what I know now." Obviously, so I'm very excited to see what you see with that. But so he goes to the last remnant of Verso's soul. It's almost like the most inner part of this canvas, and we see this little boy, the little soul of Verso. The painted Verso attempts to remove him. He like looks at him. He's like, "You're tired, aren't you? You don't want to paint anymore, do you?" And the real Verso soul nods his head. He wants to stop, right? Which would then destroy the canvas. But before he can, Alicia interjects, insisting that she would have a better life within the canvas. She doesn't want it to die, right? And she even uses, I forget what she says, but she even uses Renoir's reasoning to fight back against Verso's wanting to kill the canvas. And Verso knows that Alicia will not back down. In the same way, their mother was not going to back down, right? She's become the new paintress, truly, in this moment. And so they have a battle. And Ryan, I don't know about you, but I was sitting on my couch.
Yeah.
It's probably 8 p.m. on like a weekday night. And that's when it comes up, like, who do you pick?
Yeah.
And I think I sat there for 20 minutes talking to my wife about the whole story of this game and why I was having such a struggle on who to pick.
Yeah.
I love both these characters. And before we reveal who we picked for our endings, afterwards I listened to a lot of podcasts about who people had picked, and majority picked Maëlle because they felt so attached to her. They really they were really empathetic to her struggles and what she had gone through, and they really identified with her and really attached to her. So a lot of them picked her, which I thought was very interesting. Do you want to tell people who you picked for the ending? Your first one?
So I probably sat there and thought about it for probably 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, walked away, took the dog out, like left it on for a second just to like
eyes just wide.
just like because like, I also, similar to you, it was like a weeknight and I was like, oh man, I really just want to like really see this through. I have no stuff I have to do, but it was probably like far too late on a weeknight when I had work the next day. I was like tired and up too late, and it was probably why the fight took as long as it did. Just trying to think through like let me extrapolate of like what these things mean and why, and I think, and ultimately I chose to side with Verso in this situation. I part of it, and another layer of this is I was much better at fighting with Verso than Maëlle. My Verso build was a little bit better than Maëlle build. Maëlle could do a lot more damage, but it was harder to get things going. So that was also another layer of it too. Verso was built very, very well. But the other layer was I think I believed that like in my mind, like this is the Verso's your older brother trying to do what's best for you, like do what's best for you, even though it's like maybe not what you want. And that's like where my brain went to as like the oldest of two younger sisters, of like, you know, I know this isn't what you want. I know this isn't but this is what's going to be best for you. And so that's like part of where my brain went to in that moment.
Yeah. I think I sat with that too, and I was processing out loud, and I kept thinking about that moment where before I made my choice, I kept thinking about that moment when Verso looked at that part of the real Verso's soul and was like, "You're tired, aren't you?" And you can see how pained he is to look at this version of himself in this representation of this young boy who nods his head. Because as we've seen, we didn't mention this yet, but in just the little dialogues, again, they don't beat you over the head with this. You just kind of see this, right? Verso was never a huge fan of painting. He loved music. He loved piano. He quit. And he quit. And so that moment was really pivotal for me. And I sat with myself and losses I've had and wanting to hold on to the people that I had lost. Like I remember when I first lost my first cat growing up, I think irrational choices feel so rational. I feel like I really connect with Aline and her choices in the game, because like for me, like it felt better to just take a piece of tape and try to get as much cat hair as I could to preserve the idea of having my cat still, right? And though like you can look at that and judge it as like this irrational choice, and rightfully so, but pain causes us to act irrationally. And of course, as we see in this too, right? And we see that throughout this whole game. This game, as we've said it, other people have said this too. This is a game about grief. We'll get to that later, but I really sat with that and what it means to grieve in a healthy way. And I literally talk about this with people all the time at work, right? People who have lost, people who are losing something, what it means to grieve or hold on to it. We have this thing in therapy called the wheel of contemplation. You can Google it, but like it's the idea that you are, as a person struggling with something, you are either pre-contemplative, contemplative, ready to take action, planning, working through it, and then making progress and maintaining it. It's all about where you are in the cycle of your journey of growth. And for Verso, he wants to take action. He wants to move past this. And for Mael, she's in pre-contemplation. She has absolutely I think she understands, but she has no desire to change. And that's where she is too. So anyway, long story short, Ryan, I'm with you. I chose Verso as my first ending choice. It felt like the right thing to do. And I picked Verso. And it pained me because I love Mael. I think she's a great character. I really do empathize with her and understand where she's coming from, but it felt right to go with Verso, and because I like his kit better as well than Mael. The moment I saw the Devil May Cry mechanic for him, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a good fit. This is better than I would have thought. So when the player picks Verso, he beats Alicia in a fight and removes the piece of his soul, which destroys the canvas and everything inside. And we see Alicia kind of beg to stay as she kind of goumages out of the painting. Not goumages, but she dies out of the painting, right? And then was so interesting. This is the part that pained me the most, I think. And later on too. Minoko and Eskie come into this part of the painting and they all hug each other because I think their unified goal was laying this painting to rest. That is what they've been wanting to do this for. They've known what their goal is. They've all had the same goal. Each person significant to the original Verso in some way, right? Obviously, the painted Verso is just a version of the real Verso. Minoko is the personification of the real Verso's dog, as we learn through the narrative, and Eskie, which I think you told me in this episode, right? I don't think I put that together until I thought it was something else that we'll talk about later, but is like this doll.
Yeah, one of his favorite stuffed toys. Yeah, he had as a kid. Yeah.
And these three hug each other, which is such a significant moment. And as they're dying, as the world is dying, the canvas is dying, Ciel walks in, kind of puts her hand up to Verso, but then takes it back as she is dying, and she just looks at him and dies. And Lune is kind of in the portal between the world and the inner world of the canvas, and she sits down, and the look that she gives you, it kills me. It hurts me so bad because Lune is one of my favorite characters in the game. And to see her sit, and someone pointed this out to me, or I read this somewhere, that sorry, my dog is scratching the bed. That like she says, like, we keep going, we keep standing, we get back up, we go for it. So her sitting on the ground and staring at Verso was basically her like, I got nothing else to do. You know what I mean? Like this is the end, and she knows it's his fault, right?
Yeah.
And so the canvas dies, everything in it dies, and we go back to reality, and we see Alicia and her family outside in front of the grave of the real Verso at their house. And Renoir and Aline are holding each other. Clea's kind of standing like, finally we're back where we need to be, right? And Alicia is holding the stuffed animal of what was the inspiration of Eskie. And everyone leaves except for Alicia, where she stands in front of the grave of the real Verso, and she looks out, and the whether it's her imagination or whatever you would call it, right? She sees the figures of all the important people she met and her journey in Lumiere as they fade away. And that is the ending of that, which I thought was really beautiful. Really beautiful ending.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, how is my L's ending going to go? We got to watch that, right? So I remember, did you do it right after you did that, Ryan?
I did it right after. Yeah, I immediately looked up. I was like, okay, I have to see like what the other option was here. What was going on here? Yeah.
I actually waited a day. I waited the day, and I just laid in bed, like eyes wide open, just like thinking about the ending. And I was like, I gotta beat my L's tomorrow. So the next day, I went back in. I replayed the ending again, fought as my L against Verso, which broke my heart. You know what I mean? I love Verso. I can grow my hair out to be that cool. Oh, and so then with my L's winning, I was not prepared for this ending, Ryan. I don't know about you.
It's intense.
This one
was
really
intense.
broke me.
Yeah. We can talk about it when we get there. But there's like there's a scene that like changes from every other scene in the game. That is like, this is now a horror movie what you're experiencing right now. Yeah.
Yes. You know what? Let's get to that point, and you can take it from there. Yeah. So Verso is beginning to die. The painted Verso is beginning to die. Alicia has won, and he's laying on the ground, and he is reaching his hand out for anyone and saying, help me, as he doesn't want to lose this chance to let the painting die, to let his soul rest. Let the real Verso's soul rest. And Mael, or Alicia, whatever you call her, is looking at him like, don't worry, it's gonna be fine. And he's like, he knows better. He's seen the ramifications of what his mother has done in her grief, and Alicia is just that representation again. So Verso dies, and from there we transition to Lumiere, where everyone is back, and we're at this grand hall. And early in the game, Mael and Verso are talking, and Verso admits that he was once a piano player. He once played at the hall in Lumiere and had a great time. And Alicia is like, I promise you that we'll, or Mael promises that I promise you we'll when we're done here, we're gonna see you perform there. Like, I really want to see you perform there. Which is horrible now. At the time, it was great.
Yeah.
But then, of course, we transition back to the hall, and we kind of going inside, and Eskier and Minoko are there, inviting people in, which is like, oh, this is wild. Okay, this feels off. And then in the seats, Alicia is walking to sit down with this. Who is the little boy with her? Do you know?
I don't know for sure. What I saw some folks talk about is it's like a young Verso. It's like a kid Verso.
I hope
is
not.
like she's like raising or helping. I don't know for sure. It could even be one of the adopted kids of Gustav.
True.
Which feels better, and I hope that that's what it is.
I don't think so. He had like black hair. He had like black hair.
What I saw is that's that little boy, but now personified.
Yeah. And so they sit down. They find Ciel and her husband, who is now back alive, along with Lune, and they are back alive too. And Alicia and this little boy, who probably is Verso now that I think about it, and it's terrifying, sit down. And then who walks in but Gustav and Sophie, who have also died but are now back because whatever. And they all sit down happy in this hall, and it all gets quiet, right? And then and you're right. Do you want to take the rest since you brought the
aspect ratio changes to like be smaller. It goes full black and white, and it like cuts to Verso, an older Verso, like walking out on stage to play, and his face looks like crushed,
hollow,
like fully destroyed and hollow. And he sits down to play, and then and fill any gaps, and it like cuts back, and like everyone's like sitting happy, and like Alicia's look is just like terrifying.
It's that painted face.
Yeah.
We see that in the real
she's
world.
Fading.
Yeah.
We
see her parents have that painted look on their face when they're in the painting too long. We see that with Alicia as she's sitting there thinking that everything's great, but she is beginning to feel the ramifications of the canvas.
Torturing the soul of Verso to play music for all of her friends, right?
Yeah.
Like performing for all of her, all her toys. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's really terrifying because now she's in control. They do, you know what I mean? They no longer have agency. They are no longer in control of the world. Yeah. It is the world now.
What she thinks she's doing in this positive way is actually just a total manipulation of all those people that she thought she cared about, right? And it's totally warped the dynamic that she had. But she can't see that. But painted Verso can, right?
Yeah.
And I think he has all white hair because he does mention that he goes to all this, that he goes to the gestural village to get his hair dyed.
Hair dyed, yes, he sure does. Yeah,
which is awesome. I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, he has that moment where he just looks at his hands and he just stares at his hands for a minute, and you're just like, oh. And then we shift to that part where you see Alicia's face, and it's just like a dong. And you brought up earlier in the episode, Ryan, that art style, the chiaroscuro, and that's exactly what that is. That literally, the moment these popped up, I was like, oh my god, this is that ending. This is what this is, truly. It is a very dark ending, and then that's it. And it leaves the future yet to be known what happens, right? And I think apparently, I don't know, I've not been able to find the legitimacy of this. I've seen people say online that the devs have said there's no true ending, and maybe that is the case. Maybe everyone has their own ending. I have a really hard time with people thinking that Mael's ending is an actual ending. You know what I mean? Is an actual ending to this in a way that is constructive.
Right.
I'm happy with my choice of Verso. I'm happy I picked Verso. I'm happy I could say no. I picked Verso first. You know what I mean? Me too. I think it's wild. I don't know. Well, you know what? Let's talk about. So that's the end of the story, right? That is where the story ends. And there's more to it in the side quest. If you go into it, there's a little bit more details and tidbits of things. But let's go into the themes of the story. Yeah. Because as we talked about before, grieving is, if not the biggest theme that we see in this story, and how grief can manipulate ourselves and our actions and our thoughts to try to compensate for for trying not to feel what it is to feel grief. Yeah. And we see that in so many representations. And really the healthiest person almost in the way is Verso. Is painted Verso
or Renoir.
Or Renoir too. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Actually, Renoir probably more so than anyone. Where they seem like they're the bad guys, right? As we talked about, Verso seems like this anti-hero and Renoir seems like this bad guy, but really they are the most sensible people. They really want the best for everyone. Yeah. I would say, and I'm curious how you feel, Ryan. I put this somewhere in the document, but I haven't seen it yet. I kind of feel like the idea that these people were never real, the people in the painting were never real. I really struggle with that mindset, because I think that, again, one of the themes of this game that I feel like I'm kind of seeing here is that the art we create is as real to us as we want it to be, right?
Absolutely.
And that though these people technically, quote unquote, aren't real, they still had feeling and thought and autonomy until, people kind of manipulate that. But they have these motivations that make them real. And I can't help but feel like the real victims in this story that we see are Lune and Ciel. Either way, whatever ending comes from this whole journey that they have gone through, either way, they will either end up being manipulated into this false happiness, or they will die. And either option is incredibly sad for these two characters that we have gone 3 acts through a game. Yeah. And again, it just is another ramification of what it means to grieve, in a sense. You will lose things, and it sucks. Yeah. I think, I don't know. And of course, going back to the grief theme as well, like I think grieving in this game is shown not only from the impact of the dead, but also the living. Yeah. Right? Absolutely. The dead have an impact because we grieve those we lost. And of course, those who are grieving and that are still living will have an impact in the world around them based on their actions from the grief that they're feeling. And I think that's a really huge point to get from this game is like, what do you do with your grief? Do you actually learn from it, sit with it, understand it, or do you run away from it? And do you manipulate and try your best to get away from getting through it because it feels too hard? Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? What are some of the themes that you kind of grabbed as?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think grief is a huge part of it. Like how it changes us, how it impacts us, how we process it, how we cope with it. Like all of these characters are living with grief. Even like Verso, right, is dealing with the grief of, at first, like his sister getting injured because of something he did when he thinks he's the real Verso, and then later like, oh, you're actually not real. Real you died, and you're like a little boy mixed with your mom's imagination of a version of you of who you might be, right? Like there's also like a grief in that and a loss in that. And I mean, the game starts off with like goosed off losing Sophie, like this future he imagined or could have had being taken from him, which, like, that's what grief is, like the loss of something you imagined or could have had or was or would be. Like, people can grieve over like relationships, over like futures, over jobs they thought they'd have, but this game is actually speaking more to the loss of other people and them in your lives. And this game is really exploring that, and then exploring how we cope with that, and really through art that you either create or art that you consume, like either as escapism, right? And how that impacts you and how you can work through that. And for me, a lot of like the theme of like, I mean, for like, when you read a really engaging like story or play a really engaging game, like you care about these characters. And certainly for me growing up, why I got into video games was like to escape the real world, like to go to a place where I have power, I have control, I can do things. And that's what these characters are doing. Just the power they wield is so great that why would you want to live in the real world when you can live in a place where you control everything, right? And then when those things are being taken from you, you're reliving that grief over and over and over again. So I think for me, yeah, grief and then art and escapism and the good of that and the evil of that and the like all of the things that come with that. And then I think like when you create a piece of art, I'm not a painter or I'm not a writer. The only creative thing I've done is like D&D, right? That's the extension of my, that's the extension of my, but there is a piece of you that goes into that thing that you create. Like if you look at like a session that I've done, like there's a piece of me in every choice that was made. And I think there's like a power to that and a beauty to that, but also understand like that was a point in time of who I was. That is not who I am. In the same way, like this canvas initially was a whimsical, magical, wonderful place because it was created by a kid. It was created by a little boy right before he stopped creating in this way. And then it was created by a grieving mom who wanted to create a perfect world where no one could die or get hurt or, but that isn't, that whimsical world isn't Verso. In this world that the mom created isn't that mom, but it's who she is in that moment. And it's important for, both us as consumers of media and them as creators to not get lost in that. And I think one of the things that where I connected this to is there is story after story after story, especially in European art, of artists losing themselves and losing their families and losing everything because they're chasing this beautiful, magical, perfect art that they can only achieve if they give everything else up. Yeah. And they don't care who they lose. And I think there's like some of that that's in there too, because again, it's a game created by a culture where like fine art is incredibly valued and incredibly important part of their culture. That kind of comes through as well. Those two pieces of like, what is it like when you lose somebody, and then how do we go to the art that we create and the stories we tell to cope with that? And is that okay? And is that not okay? And it's a spectrum of when it is okay and when it's not okay. And that interaction, I think for me is what jumped out at me.
Yeah. It actually just reminded me of, like, I think we all have met that person that is just so into something that it literally is just their personality.
Yeah.
And it's great that they love something as deep as that to the point where it just takes over them. But like, it's also this negative where like, now I've lost this sense of who this person was because of this influence that has kind of like settled into who they are, right? And it's hard sometimes to detach their love of something from who they are, or is it even, or is it just the same person? Or it's really hard to find that line or that boundary and understand, what is a person besides the love of things, and how do you separate that? And it's, I don't know, it's at least a whole other, all these other philosophical things. But I think this is a great tale of grief, and I think anyone that likes Miles more than Verso needs to work on their grief.
And I think, Eric, one thing that I was going to talk about later, but I think fits here, is the magic trick that the devs pulled here is Mael's wants and desires align with you as the player.
Yeah.
You, just like Mael, have spent days, for her years, living in these worlds, caring about these characters, wanting to get their happy ending that is the reason you left Lumiere. And now you have to give that up. You, the
Yeah.
player, have to give up not just Mael's hopes, but your hopes for these characters. And aligning that is such a perfect exploration of art and how, like, you have to sacrifice in the same way Mael and Verso has to sacrifice. And that choice is so beautiful. And I can understand why folks would go for Mael, because, again, like, the whole game has, in some ways, I would say, conditioned you to care and want what these characters want. I would say in other ways, if we were to listen to what Gustav has been telling us, you have to let go sometimes.
Yeah.
And, you know, for who comes after, right? Like, who Alicia will be after she leaves the painting is important. Who's a person who's just as important as who Mael has been in the painting. And I think there's that dichotomy there is really interesting. But yeah, that magic trick of making you, the player, like, care about these characters and love these characters and want a happy ending for them, but forcing you to choose to not give them that happy ending for a story that you haven't really learned much about and is disconnected, but might be the actual right thing for these people who you haven't spent, you know, you've spent maybe an hour or two with real Mael or real Alicia, or maybe 3 or 4, depending on how long you spent in the third act. But you've spent 30 hours with Lune and Sael and Verso and Gustav and this town that he loved, and to, like, force you to make that choice is, like, a really incredible magic trick that they pulled there.
Yeah, that is a great point. And you're right. It kind of takes the idea of those who come after to a whole other level. I think you talking about that kind of reminds me. Gustav has got that representation of how to grieve. Like, he uses his grief as a means to continue to move forward, and not just sit in it and try to hold on to the memory of what of Sophie was to him. He could just stay at Lumiere and just wallow in his grief for another year, then die in the next plumage, or he can use that grief as a tool to continue forward for the betterment of the world and those who come after. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's so interesting. I think it kind of goes down. This reminds me too of the saying, like, think smarter, not harder, which I think is well and good generally, but I think more life has shown me. My dog's walking around. Sorry. Life has shown me that typically the right choice is the harder choice to make.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. Verso's choice is the harder choice to make, because you're right, Ryan. You have to give up everything you wanted to see happen in the end. Whereas Mael's is the easy one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which feels
you get what you want, right? You get the you get the ending that when you left Lumiere you were hoping for, to save these people. We get Gustav back just like we wanted the whole time. You know what I mean? You get the thing we wanted, but you had to give that up for, you know, a future for these characters, for these people, so they can grieve properly, so they can, like, move. They have to lose, you know, they have to lose that. They have to grieve that in the same way we do as players by making that choice.
Right. And avoidance is powerful. I don't blame Alicia for wanting to not leave the canvas, because, like, it feels like she has nothing on the outside, right? When really she has a family that loves her. Yeah. Though it seems like kind of blames her for things. They got to work through that.
Renoir is the only one who seems to be, like, really thoughtful and caring, and which it also is so telling that the Renoir we see, which was created by the real Alicia, this is how she sees him, right? Is this like mean, what she wants him to anger? Be. Yeah, exactly. As this, like, villain, right? Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
The painted version of Renoir is how she sees him, right? Is this, like, mean and ruthless and in some ways uncaring person who wants just to, you know, keep living, when Renoir, the real Renoir, would have given up his life to bring his family back. He was willing to do that, to be in there as long as he needed to get his family back.
See, I almost see it in a different light. I don't think you're wrong. I think I see it as the real one. I think we both agree. The real one wants his family back, and that makes sense. The painted one is what I think Aline wanted to see her husband do. He would go to every length to bring their family back together, even if it meant fake Verso was now the real Verso. Like, this would be what brings the family together, because that's what it was for Aline to bring the family together, was to avoid. And that's the version of Renoir that she wanted to show out for her that wasn't that, right? Because he wants he says it, the fake Renoir says it all the time, like, I want my family back together. I want this back together, because they were a family at one point, right? But I think you see the parallels between the two. One is the real one. One's what Aline wanted him to be and wasn't.
Yeah, to like kill and to do whatever it takes.
Keep the family safe.
To keep the family safe, yeah.
Yeah. To keep the painting safe because then the family can be safe. And really the family's on the outside wanting her to leave.
Yeah. It's like such a tragedy. Such a beautiful tragedy. Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about, really quick, let's talk about the things we didn't like before we talk about things we do like. So like... I already kind of talked about mine, which was the relationship thing. I think it was super unnecessary. Didn't think it added anything. I think these dynamics, these relationships could have been built without the romantic aspect in it. That could have been a tying force with their dynamics and their growth as friends and teammates together. Yeah. So that was really my big one. Like really my only one I think I have. Mm-hmm. What about you?
I think my initial reaction to that twist was I don't know if it was because it was late at night or if because of where I was in my headspace, but I had like a pretty, not fully negative, but like, what do you mean this whole world I've just been living in isn't real? Like, that's dumb. That world is so cool. What are you talking about? But I think as I took some time reflecting on that and reflect on like what that actually represented, right? Like, I was doing what Mael and Lean were doing, is that like the pretend world was more important than the real world. Yeah. Because it's where I lived. It's where I spent and connected with these characters. And then once I kind of processed that, that's the point. It wants you to feel this way. It wants you to care and not care as much about the real world as this pretend world. Because like I haven't spent any time there. What does it matter? Once I worked through that, it actually just becomes one of my favorite things about the story. Yeah. Is that disconnect and that distance. I think not from like the game itself was like I hit some hard boss points that were friction points for me because I'm not very good at some types of games. And so that I bounced off. And like, so when I came back to finish, I hadn't played in maybe 4 or 5 days because life was crazy. And like, I didn't want to sit down unless I had like 2 or 3 hours to dedicate to really like bash my head against this boss or go grind for 2 or 3 hours. And so there was some friction there, but that is more like, because I wanted to see the story through and get and progress, and that frustration of not taking the time to learn the mechanics because I don't have the patience to do that sometimes is not necessarily negative of the game. I think for a lot of people that was a feature, not a bug. But for me personally, how I experience games, that friction can sometimes be enough for me to bounce off. But the story was engaging, the characters were engaging enough that I did not want to do that, and I powered through to make sure that didn't happen. So I think I don't really have any other big negative. Even I think the relationship is a really great point. I don't know if it's like a cultural thing with sex and France and their relationship to it, where it doesn't feel as like intense as our American Puritan, backgrounds, you know what I mean? Yeah, but I do think, especially for Lune, it would have felt super... for Sayal, she kind of was like, hey, whatever, I've lost my husband, let's just have fun in the end of days. Like, that feels better than, like, Lune, who is, like, never opened up and connected with anybody, and now she's opening up to you, the person who will actively destroy everything she loves. That feels worse. Yes, that feels a lot worse than Sayal, who, certainly it's problematic, but I think she was in some way approaching him about it, and he was like, well, I'm not sure, maybe yes, whatever. And then certainly he could have been more clear about what his long-term goals were. But I
might have ruined the mood a little bit, but yeah.
Might have ruined the mood a little bit, yeah. But I do fully agree. I don't think it was fleshed out enough to be, necessary.
Yeah. I think so too. Yeah. In terms of what I like, I guess really everything else. I think the game is special. This is one of my favorite games I've played in forever. I'll never play an MMO just because I'm scared. I'm scared of being this, lose myself to the world and not wanting to live it. This is what World of Warcraft was for so many people.
Absolutely.
When it first came
Power
out,
fantasies will do it. Power fantasies will always do it.
100%.
D&D can be there. I know some folks who've lost themselves in D&D in the same way, that they just want to be playing because it's where they feel powerful. Right. It's where they feel strong, and it's where they feel like they can control the world.
It's where you feel like you have the most autonomy. And for Alicia, it was in the painting, right? Because she lost so much in the real world. And so really quick to wrap it up, do you want to jump into how the story impacts you as a person, if there's anything else you haven't touched on yet?
I wrote a little thing here, but I think we've talked about all of this. The worlds we create matter. The worlds we consume and the media we consume matters. We use media to tell stories, to understand the world, to understand ourselves. And I think this is a really great example of a story that is in conversation with the idea of telling stories, in conversation with the idea of consuming media, and in a really human way of why we consume media. It doesn't just exist to exist. It exists to ask the question of, why do people play games? Why do people tell stories? Why do people create art? And when is that, not good for you? Or when do you need to reflect and step away from that thing? Because like you said, the easy thing is to keep living in that world, even though it maybe isn't necessarily real. No matter how real it feels, it might not be what's best for you.
What feels good might not be good,
Absolutely, yeah. And then I think I already talked about this, but like the magic trick of us and Mayal being aligned in the end and having it's just something that I love. Like, it's such great design. Yeah, it's such beautiful design. That is, I think, the thing that I'm most of all the things is one of the things I'm most impressed of is landing that, because it's just perfect.
Yeah, it's so good. I wrote this game is a reminder of pain, the pain of change, and whether we embrace it or not, and kind of look at it or not, and learn from it or not. I love the story because of the emotional impact it had on me. And I mean, working in therapy, 4 days out of the week with 30 plus clients, is you see these things come up for people. And also the clues that verse was true intent, and the writing on the wall the whole time, looking back like, wow, I thought I saw Verso one way when really he was another way. And that was my own forced perspective upon him, when really the intent was something totally different. Right. And perspective is everything. And what we choose to not see, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be any less impactful on us. Yeah. Or wrong, truly. Yeah. Like I felt right in my perspective, but then when the choice came, I was like, well, I guess I'm wrong.
I really love that it sounds like you really had Verso clocked as as a villain by the end of Act 2, is like, how dare he? And then in the end, you're like, all right, Verso, I see you. I guess one more time.
One more time, my friend. Just keep manipulating me, my man. Whatever works. Yeah. It seems to me that Verso sharing the same face as Alicia's brother helped him not get noticed about his true intent for killing the canvas, and she continued to trust him despite his true intent. I just found that very interesting in such a dynamic way. What we feel is right for someone else, and forcing that narrative onto them can, again, either be right or wrong, right? And it's hard to really know the difference. And so it's like, whose truth is heavier or holds more substance? I don't know. It's at least a whole other philosophical aspects. And then I left off with like also how things we create are real for us and the meaning that we give to it. It questions what is real and what is not real. Were these people in the painting real or not real? I really question the validity that they weren't real because of the emotional depth that I connected with these characters. And again, this is a video game. They're not real, right? But in the narrative context of the story of 1906 France and these painters painting these, yes, they painted it, but does it make the canvas people less real? I would say no, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting question. Like, it's the same question you'd ask if you read a really good book you love. Are those characters real? Like, they have wants, they have needs, they have desires. They can be fully formed beings, but when the book closes, they no longer exist. And what is existence? And that's a whole larger question of existence.
Right. I think there are people who take media that isn't real, right? Mm-hmm. Consume that and get more from that and feels more like a truth to them than maybe what they get from real life people. So Absolutely. Then I question what is real, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? What has more, just because something's not real doesn't mean that it's not, has a real impact, which then wouldn't that make it somewhat real in a sense? You know what I mean? It's
absolutely.
It's all about perspective, so it's a very interesting question, but I think Clair Obscure has been a story that has gripped me, and I worry for other games coming next because I don't think they're going to have the emotional impact that I've been looking for after this. I think this is kind of reinvigorated my desire for really deep stories and beautiful stories and smart stories like this, and I just feel like this is a really special game with a really special narrative that I highly recommend. I mean, hopefully everyone listening to this has already beaten the game and is very much in line with us. But if you haven't, I really support you going back and playing through the whole things. We definitely missed things. We definitely didn't touch on things.
We left stuff out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But Storygoers, let us know what you think, right? Was Verso right? Was my L right? If you like the new format of the things that we're doing, let us know. talesfromthecartridge@gmail.com. All of the E's are threes. You can also message us on Instagram. Let us know what you think, and we would love to read those responses on an episode in the future. Ryan, how do you feel about everything? How do you feel about the new format?
I really like a bunch of things. I like how quickly we were able to throw it together. I mean, I sense that this didn't take you as long as writing a 5-page document would take.
Not nearly as much.
And I like how much we got to talk through. Not like most of the time, we spend 80% of the time like reading the story, and we spent 10% of the time talking it through. And this is like still a good chunk of this time was spent reading the story, but it's much closer to 50-50, maybe even 60-40.
Yeah.
And I think the discussions we were able to have about stories was more meaningful when we weren't like fitting it in between, half-hour reading sessions, and at the very end we've just been reading for 3 hours straight and have nothing else to say, and then we move on. Versus like we had to have like a really in-depth discussion about how we thought and felt and what the game was trying to do. So yeah. I really liked it. I hope the Storygoers like it too.
Me too. Not to force my perspective on anyone, but I think this has been. I think I would love to go back to the old format every now and then when we have that time. If things ever allowed us through Tales to have the financial means to be able to have more time to put into it, I'd love to get back to that one day. But yeah. I think the story analysis, the thing that we've done today, is a format I really want to keep as well, because I feel like I've connected more on an emotional level with you, Ryan, on like how we see this game, and like this is an aspect. This is how we really became friends or connected by talking about video games. What do we like about video games? Playing video games together, and absolutely. I think I feel this more now than I even have throughout Tales as a whole. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I feel very good, and I hope the Storygoers feel connected. Even if you don't agree with us, I hope you feel connected in the idea that we all have felt something probably from this game, and we can connect on that. Whether we agree or disagree, everyone's perspective is valid, and everyone's perspective, is their truth, and that's all well and good. I'd love to hear those perspectives more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but anyway, let us know all the stuff. Hopefully everyone's happy, healthy, well. Don't make a canvas full of people to run away from your grief. Make it to have fun. Ryan, before I let you go, I know this is a long episode. What,
okay.
If you had the power to be a painter, what would you make as a painting?
Oh man, probably like the worlds that I spend the most time and have the most time living in are like pulp fiction-y, like Indiana Jones, steampunk western.
Whoa,
like
that's a canvas right there.
Loose, like just one-liners, and you're shooting guns, but no one actually died. Like just like this really bombastic, not super serious world where you can just kind of exist and have fun and have these like go on these adventures, but then you like become closer as people through this adventure, and you're you're out doing good in a world where you actually can have control and power in the world around you. I think that's probably something like that. Those are the stories that aren't what I grew up reading, but as an adult, I find myself more and more drawn to these bombastic, not super serious, like we're going out on a grand adventure, but it's kind of gritty a little bit, and like the world is dusty and messy, and you're meeting these like people who are kind of gray, and they do good things and do bad things, and like those types of stories. As I've gotten older, I find myself like enjoying a lot and interested in exploring those worlds, and like I've ran some D&D in those types of worlds, and I really loved my time there. And so I think like those types of stories are really fun, much more like pulpy, actiony, fun stories that have like a heart and generally have an optimistic view about like everybody in the world.
Yeah I would just
Eric,
be like straight up like Mario or Zelda.
Sure.
The stakes are low, the fun is high. It gets weird. I probably would throw a go-kart in there somehow, some way.
Sure.
Be very low stakes, very like that, or honestly just like a beautiful island that I would just have to myself. If people are, I just overwhelm my humans. I walk on my canvas like, oh, I just saw my island. I'm just drinking my painted margarita, just living my best life, and no one's bothering me. You know what I mean? I think that'd be very cool. I'd be yeah. I'd probably just create a version of myself that just talk to me like I already do already. You know what I mean?
Some good processing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be a painted version of me, but with Verso's hair, and I'm like, man,
sure, yeah, of course.
So it's just a hotter version. You know what I mean? Storygoers, thank you for listening. As always, hopefully you enjoyed this. Let us know again what you think, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.